sont dits partout.
What's going on there, Jerk Faces? It's your boy Andy, and you're watching Nocturnal Transmissions, brought to you by the Circle of Jerks podcast. It's our weekly live stream where we talk about news, current events. Lately it's been more of a forum where we could do some thought exercises, as well as our movie review. And tonight, in going with our monthly theme, which is memory, we'll be reviewing The Bourne Identity, starring Matt Damon and Julia Stiles, Chris Cooper, Brian Cox. It's a really star-studded movie, if not at the time, but also in like the stars that will come from this movie.
Oh yeah, it's one of those films that I remember it being really big when it first came out. I remember seeing it like opening night back in 2002. And this is really like we'd seen Matt Damon in some things, but like this is really his coming out party. This movie.
This is like his proper debut.
I think this show,
or at least in the realm of action movies.
Well, this is where we got to see him like see that. Yeah, he had done some dramas before, but like we hadn't seen this type of Matt Damon before, and I think this shows that he could pretty much do anything he wanted.
Right. Yeah. This was kind of like, I guess, the actor's equivalent of, The Dark Knight. In that he proved his chops, so like he could be, he can, in the eyes of Hollywood, they knew like this guy is a moneymaker, and it doesn't matter what we put him in, he'll bring the eyes.
Yeah. And he was far from the first choice for this role.
Yeah, so I've heard, but you before we started the stream, a little bit behind the scenes, you talked about how because you were going to share with us the alternate cast list, the ones that they initially were thinking about for the role, and I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah, a few kind of like, yeah, of course they like looked at him, and then a few people was like, whoa, that would have been a completely different film.
Plenty to look forward to for you guys out there. Before we get started, I just want to do a little catch up because Rob, you were on the Cut Above podcast as a guest, and I was wondering if you could talk to us about it.
Yeah, we were talking about the film. They're doing their theme this month is Creepy Children, and we were reviewing 1956's The Bad Seed, directed by Mervyn LeRoy, starring Nancy Kelly, Patty McCormick. And it was, it's a great film. I had a great time talking about it. We actually, Jacqueline Heidelberg and myself all had a really good time talking about it, and ended up running a little long. It's about a 2.5 hour discussion on The Bad Seed. But I ended up, I had a bunch of notes on the film. It's a film that I had not seen in probably about 25 years, but it was one that I grew up with, so I knew quite a bit about it, but it was kind of nice to look at it with a more critical lens. And yeah, it was a fun discussion, and supposedly the downloads on, because it just came out on the episode came out Monday night, and yeah, numbers are looking good. Heidelberg, talked to me today. He's like, dude, like, this is a great episode. Like, he was really excited that I had come on to talk about it. So.
Yeah, we're kind of a draw now. It's
that's kind of nice, and they miss you, Andy. Like they apologized that they had to switch the time up on us, but they were
yeah.
So
No
but
worries. I'll get some next one. It's all good.
yeah, but no, it was we had a fun discussion. I think if you head over to their podcast, you're gonna enjoy the conversation as well.
Yeah. Right after this.
Yeah. Oh yeah, of course. Right after our live stream, just
Yeah.
hop on over to where you get your podcasts, and you'll enjoy it.
Yeah.
One of the great child actor performances for sure.
Oh yeah.
Oh yeah, Patty McCormick is she's fantastic, and unfortunately she never did quite reach the same um, heights that she did in this film. Like she didn't get as big roles like she probably should have. But she continued to work. I think she might be retired now, but she was constantly working in Hollywood, and either television, movies, Broadway. So she was always working, and I think I had made the mention that had this film been done like 15 years earlier, it would have been Natalie Wood in that role.
Cool. Yeah. So yeah, don't forget to check out the. It's A Cut Above, right?
But yeah, A Cut Above horror review.
Horror review. Yeah. Again, wherever you get your podcast, give it a listen. Give it a thumbs up. Give it a good review.
5-star review. All that.
All that good stuff. Ouch. I know it's so weird because I don't ever subscribe or like plug for our show, but for other people I do. But yeah, so if you're feeling generous, then please do also like this stream and give us a subscribe. Especially because I know we don't get many live viewers, but we do good numbers on the on demand side.
That's what's important. So eventually people are listening to us. It might not necessarily
Yeah, but it would be nice if if more people were watching live, so there was more of like participation from the audience. But
yeah, something else I did this weekend too. I watched the new Scream film, Scream 6, and that was for fans of that franchise. I think you're gonna really enjoy it. It does have the criticisms of the franchise are valid. Like it seems formulaic. It's somewhat the same thing all the time.
Right.
But
I think the biggest criticism of that franchise is rinse repeat sort of thing.
But at the same time, despite you're gonna have we're gonna try to figure out who is copying the Ghostface killings again, like who's behind it. It's kind of like it's a new murder mystery with kind of like with the same cast, and trying to go through all that. And I can see where people would get tired of that or don't like that. For me, it works, and maybe because I think that the dialogue is good, the commentary on not just horror but franchises in general, and I find it fun. I don't know. I enjoyed myself, and this one was no different. And even without Neve Campbell in it, or without David Arquette, it still holds up pretty well. And the new cast is a lot of fun.
Right. What is it? What's her face? The phenom.
Jenna Ortega is.
Yeah, she's in this.
She is fantastic. She's actually a really interesting person. She seems like not only is she a good actress, but she seems like she really knows and enjoys film as well. So she's been in a lot of good horror films. recently. I think she's enjoying it.
Mm. Mm. Yeah,
So
I mean, yeah, I'm not too familiar with her. I don't think I could honestly say I've ever seen any of
she
her
is a
work.
little bit new. She's a little new on the scene because
Yeah,
she's still pretty
but
young.
yeah, but I know because I've seen like clips and stuff on social media and things like that, and it was back when she was very much younger. So
Yeah,
she's very much a child actor.
yeah,
Who I think I mean, just going off my impressions that I get from from social media and things, like yeah, she's doing the transition to adult acting very well. Um,
yeah.
and
And
so
she along
I think she's someone to look out for going forward.
yeah, and like you said, yeah, she's new. She's been in the last two Scream films. She's been great in those.
Oh, in the
She
last two. Okay.
yeah, she was in Scream 5, and so she's kind of the new
Well, yeah, she's probably becoming the new face of the franchise.
that's yeah, because I think Nev Campbell wanted to step back and
Yeah.
do something different, or kind of because
Yeah.
I don't know if she wants to act anymore. Like I
Well, I
think
mean,
she's
yeah, because she has like her health issues.
yeah, I think that's kind of she kind of wants to step back and take it easy, which she's earned that. That's great.
Mhm.
And then but she's all Jenna Ortega. She's also in the film X that Ty West did back in when that movie come out 20 that was last year I think, yeah,
Okay.
2022, and that
Mhm.
film was great.
Oh, I vaguely remember that movie. But yeah, I mean, if you're giving it a recommendation, then
Yeah, I do give it a recommendation because it has two of the new powerhouses in horror with Mia Goth and Jenna Ortega in uh, in a film together, and they're
mhm.
both really fantastic.
Okay, sounds good. Um, yeah, for me on my end, this past weekend was pretty good. I mean, I did the homeless outreach per usual. Even though it was a bit rainy and wet, but it wasn't too rainy. It was a lot of wet, but not too rainy. Um, yeah, it's
Yeah,
just it's so crazy because um, I one location like I usually didn't go out very much because
uh-huh.
my strength was more engaging with people. So like we would set up a a table and and a canopy with another table and like seats, and like I would go there and I'd sit and I'd engage with people that way. But this past Saturday I actually went out amongst into I guess the communities um, of the homeless, and yeah, I mean not to sound like too shocked or anything, because I know the realities of it all, but just the desire to live or to even just survive is just really amazing. The like the structures that they would build. I remember like this one part underneath the 405 freeway even. There's basically a small like village, with plywood like buildings and things like and tents, and it's a real community. I know people don't want to think of it as such, and it's like, oh, these poor people, but it's like it's a real community, and um, we went in and like because of course we've been doing this for so long, we know some people, and so it's like, oh, where's Yoel or whatever, and it's like, oh, he's not here right now, or he's off doing something else, and it's like, but it's like, oh, but we'll get these things, uh, 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 the provisions that we brought, like, it's like we give them to them, and it's like, oh, we'll make sure that they get them, and and they actually do get them, because we do actually follow up, and we go, it's like, oh, did you get the things? Oh yeah, Brian, so and so gave it to me, and so.
That's I think that's somewhat encouraging to hear.
Mhm.
Well, and I think what because of the work that you guys have been doing, and you're constantly showing up, doing those things, and I think there may be like somewhat of like a level of trust that you've built up,
Oh
and
yes,
so
of course.
and because I think like normally they're like, yeah, whatever, like, and you're kind of just dismissed, but no, there's like, hey, he's not here right now, but like we brought this specifically for him because we know like he has such and such need at the moment. It's like we'll make sure he gets it because
Yeah.
they
I mean,
they
yeah, as
respect you.
yeah, but that yeah, and as much as there's trust is a luxury that these people can't really afford. And so there are instances of people who get their things swiped by other people in the community, and so yeah, trust is I think we take trust for granted, even the bare minimum of trust, and like just say just like in the sense of like social decency.
Right.
Like I think we take that for granted because at least from what I've observed from my work, is that yeah, it's like these people like they have to live with their head on a swivel, and they have to they have to grow eyes in the back of their head, um, not because they're bad people, but it just these people that they're in such desperate straits that um, not everyone is willing or capable of even uh, even
They're not able
give
to let that barrier down because
right. They're not capable, or they're not willing to just even do the bare minimum of like the just bare minimum of decency of of putting giving someone their trust.
yeah, I kind of think about like some of the shows or movies that we see in like these dystopian societies, and how
Mm-hmm.
you have factions that split off, and like, yeah, you might like people within your group, but any outsiders like I don't know you, I don't
Right.
trust you,
Mm-hmm.
and like why should I? Because the last guy that we trusted or the last person we trusted, yeah, they
Yeah.
stole all the stuff, or they stabbed my friend, or they did the such and such. And when you live in an environment like that, in these like essentially like they're, I mean, back we call them Hoovervilles, it's but or they call them Hoovervilles, I don't know what you call them now, but like it's they don't, I can see like why they wouldn't trust anybody because who knows uh how they got there, why they got there, what they've been through, to the point that to uh, how they've gotten to what's happened to them, uh, up to this point, and that is a really tough way to live.
Right. And yeah, and just kind of going, kind of pulling back for a wider picture. Um, when especially when the migrant stuff started happening, and particularly in Europe, and they had like all like these Middle Eastern people, and they're the horrors of like the roving the rape gangs and things like that.
Yeah,
And it's just like, oh, like these Muslims, like no. It's like that's not Islam. Just as much as um, you know like Guatemalan or Nicaraguan like gangsters that come up. That's not Catholicism. It's like
exactly.
um, it's they're, the people that are coming over. Yes, are there families or whatever? Sure, but the vast majority are the outcasts of even that society. They're the criminal class,
Yeah, and there is a criminal class.
and there is
It's
a
like
criminal class.
there's some
Um,
dangerous motherfuckers out there.
yeah. So yeah. So I mean, it's kind of coming back to what we are initially talking about, but yeah, it's like the idea of trust, and um, that's why it's it's not evil or it's not a bad thing to have in-group preference. It's and once you do prove yourself to not be a threat or someone who is trustworthy, then yeah, you are totally welcome to the community. You are totally welcome to the resources of said community. But you can't just have a like an open door like policy, or in the more macro view of things, you can't have an open border policy.
Yeah. Yeah, you're right. It's like, because they certainly are like, who the hell are you? Get out of my house. Get out of my.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, if you wouldn't leave your front door open at night, then why should we leave our borders open?
Yeah.
It's not that, it's not because you don't know who's outside. I mean, outside of like maybe like one or two neighbors that that you kind of exchange pleasantries every once in a while, but it's like you know out there are strangers.
You hell, even that neighbor could be slicing off people's faces, like when you're not looking at them.
I know, right? It could be it could be a Buffalo Bill situation.
Yeah. Seriously.
But yeah, and again, when I was out there, I was just kind of reminded of like, yeah, the harshness of it. Like, I mean, it wasn't a person, but I saw a dead cat. And it's not as though I've never seen a dead cat, but it's like the body was here, and then the face was somewhere else, and like I'm talking about, like the face was like cut off. And 3 feet away from the body, I'm just like,
Yeah.
I don't know why, but like of all the things I've seen out there, it's like that's the one that like has stuck with me, or like
yeah.
kind of like haunts my dreams. I've been, you know, uh, a soda can's throw away from like domestic violence situations, like on the street, doing this, and that didn't faze me. But seeing like this dead animal, that's what did it.
There's just something so visceral, like, because I can even like just you telling me that, I'm like, I'm looking at thinking about that in my mind. It's like, oh man, that's.
Yeah, and again, like, yeah, I've had like people like yelling in my face. I've had like domestic violence situations, kind of like the Jerry Springer like cops thing, like where like they have a fight on the front lawn or whatever, but I guess on the street. Like, yeah, I've been through those situations, and like that hasn't affected me, like seeing like this dead animal, near like the communities of like these homeless people.
Yeah, because we back when I was living in San Diego, because I used to help out with a homeless ministry down there.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, like, I don't think I ever saw anything quite that disturbing, but like, yeah, we saw there was people that were shooting up, they were exchanging drugs, but because we had built up like kind of like a level of trust.
Yeah. Or a
It's like, yeah, it's like, it's they're like it's like you'd have some people like look at us like, who the hell are you? It's like, oh no, like he's good. It's like it's like because you're like, oh shit, like I stumbled upon something that I should not have seen, and it's like, no, he's cool. Don't, he's not gonna, that these people are not gonna hurt you.
Right. Yeah. They're not the cops. They're not
Yeah,
the
they're
city or whatever.
cops, they're not gonna try to like, they're here to help us. It's like, okay, all right, it's like,
right.
And it's
yeah, and it's sorry.
Yeah, no, what I'm saying is just like it's got to be tough because you see like all this stuff happening with these people, and you're like, fuck, it's like, man, just like if you weren't doing this, like it would help you so much, more. But at the same time, I kind of understand, like when you live that type of lifestyle, when you're on the edge all the time,
Mm-hmm.
God, who wouldn't want to shoot up heroin or like get fucked up?
Yeah, and when we're out there, you wouldn't, but like there's like no shame, particularly from the dealers, because like I see transactions all the time.
Yeah.
I see the car that rolls through. One of the homeless guys comes and like goes to the window, and there's an exchange, and then the car leaves.
Yeah.
and like yeah, I've seen multiple cars, you know, just dealing and just kind of predating on these poor people. Um, but it's very interesting because one of my small groups that I meet with during the week, we actually read um, Proverbs 31.
Okay.
And for those of you who don't know, Proverbs 31 is the last book in the last chapter in the book of Proverbs. And it kind of just lays it out, or I think it's a really good summary of what the book is about.
Yeah.
And of course, the book of Proverbs is just, it's just wisdom. It's a wisdom book. But there's just one part in it where it says, "Oh, let the drunkards." Oh, let me. I don't want to misquote the Bible.
Yeah.
But yeah, hold on. Here it is. Oh, okay. Here's Proverbs 31, verse 6. Uh, starting from verse 6. Give strong drink to the one who is perishing, and wine to those in bitter distress. Let them drink and forget their poverty, and remember their misery no more. Yeah, that's Proverbs 31, 6 through 7. And, and it's a constant struggle because, you know, uh, we want to help these people, but when is it time to implement that directive where it's like give them let them drink, let those who are perishing drink their sorrows away, you know
Yeah.
um,
That's always like it's always really a tough call because like you I've always been a strong believer in that we're not the ones that do the saving. Yeah,
correct.
we are people that are used by God, at his time, but it's almost like a like somewhat of an exchange where all we're doing, we're farmers essentially. We're planting seeds, we're tilling the soil. And sometimes for a while the soil is, it doesn't grow anything. It's not really good soil. You can plant, you can water, you can do a bunch of stuff and it doesn't grow.
Right.
And
Yeah, because like as you said, that we're the farmers, we're the farm hands. Like we scatter the seed, but God causes it to grow.
yeah, and it's in this case like the people like who not not saying that they're of the of the dirt, but like essentially they're the soil, like and in a lot of ways, in a weird way, they have to be willing to, like, they have to be open to it. It's and I've always found that it leads you to people who are open to hear uh that message. And it's like sometimes just getting to that point takes forever, and then sometimes getting to the point where I'm ready to accept this. That also takes a long time in some cases.
Mm-hmm.
um and it's a frustrating business. And I think the thing that will I know what helped me to kind of get overcome that frustration is like, listen, it has nothing to do with me. In fact,
Right.
as far as I'm concerned, I'm doing what I'm supposed to be doing. And even if it's like, yeah, I might not even be sharing the Bible with them, which is fine. But if they can see that like I am genuine, that I do care about them, like I'm not looking down upon them just because I have things better than they do,
Mm-hmm.
or that because they're homeless, they have these sort of whatever problems that they have, and I don't look down on them. I don't think I'm better than them. Some of my
Right.
circumstances are definitely better for sure, but that doesn't mean that I'm a better person than they are.
Mm-hmm.
um, and you know what, like if I can at least reach them, so that they know that I'm a genuine person, and that they might kind of like, okay, he's okay. He's not here to judge us. He's not here to look down on us. He's a nice person. Sometimes like that's all it takes, and like and then being that person to them, and I think that eventually that does help grind away a lot of the hardness that these people have developed over time, because their hearts are callous. They're everything about them is just, it's very callous. Their lifestyle has forced them to be that way.
Right. Yeah, and I mean, before a lot of the homeless people leave, I always ask them like, "Oh, would you like to receive prayer?" And I don't say, "Oh, would you like to would you like to believe in Jesus?" No, I never,
No,
no,
yeah.
of course not. I always say like, it's like, "Would you like to receive prayer?" And a lot of times they say no, and that's fine. But as I think, if I don't if I stopped asking them, then I wouldn't be doing my part in helping in chipping away the the hardness on their hearts.
Yeah. It's like I said, you're essentially trying to dig through frozen ground at the moment. Like, it's just that,
or I'm a loofah, essentially.
yeah, essentially. But I'm just, I pray for like what you guys are doing, because I think what you're doing is great, and it takes groups like you to that's going to help this situation. Because I don't think you're just like doing it for, oh, let's just give them something to eat. Let's just do this or that. Like, I think you do have a plan in mind, and I think it's, if we donate to groups like yours, I think that we don't need necessarily the state government or the federal government to step in and fix the problem. We can fix it ourselves, like by providing resources to the people who are actually on the ground doing something about this issue, and giving these people some freaking dignity.
Yeah, I mean, because I think main purpose of, or not the main, but one of the purposes for us going out to where they are is so that we can get them to like even just the Wednesday mobile shower ministry that I do, because that's when the San Fernando mission's there, and so, or like at least one of the representatives, and so like we could always like give point them to more resources. I mean, the San Fernando Rescue Mission, they opened up a men's like recovery house in
Hey, that's
Northridge.
great.
Yeah. And so we're always like pimping that out. We're always like letting them know, it's like, hey, particularly the men, because it is geared towards men, and majority of homeless people out there, they are men. Uh, so yeah, we're always letting them know, like, hey, the San Francisco Rescue Mission, they started this, kind of recovery house, kind of like halfway home style thing. If you want to get clean, if you want to, get back on your feet, this is the way, or other, or the bunch of other resources that that we're plugged into as well. So yeah, I think another purpose, is to get the outreach is for stability. So like there's something, at least something constant in their life, even if there's nothing constant in their lives, regularly. Like at least like they know that, oh, we'll be there every second and fourth Saturday with food, with clothes, with a ear, with a with
They get
prayers
food.
and
Yeah, they get food. They get all these amenities. They
they
want.
get provisions. They get provisions.
Yeah, but yeah, like I said, I pray for you guys. I'm really, I really think what you guys are doing is making a huge difference, and I hope we can develop more groups like that within the valley that are working together and really, because I mean, let's face it, Los Angeles is, it's the homeless capital
Yeah,
of the.
actually, there are new numbers that came out, and like the vast majority of homeless people are either in California or New York State. And of course, like the highest concentration, of course, are no surprise New York City and Los Angeles.
Yeah, and Los Angeles is a huge fucking city. So
Yeah, I mean, yeah,
if we
there's huge urban sprawl.
so if we can get more and more groups doing essentially what you are doing,
Yeah.
and we can spread that over across Los Angeles, eventually that's going to make a dent into doing something good.
Right.
And it's
Yeah,
like,
actually, yeah, we took this idea from another ministry doing this at a church in Los Angeles called Hillside, I believe.
oh, I've heard of them. Yeah. Okay.
Yeah. Because that's our pastor. He would go out with them. Like what was it like a couple years ago. Um, before we started our own proper one, and he thought it was a good idea, and like that church was specifically targeting the homeless in their community where their church was, and so we had other outreaches prior, like I somewhere along the lines of like 12 years ago, we'd go to Santa Monica and hand out sandwiches.
Yeah.
But I think with the growing number of homeless people, particularly doesn't matter where you are, you're pretty much you probably you it doesn't matter where you are in Los Angeles or Los Angeles County, from the nicest to the not so nice neighborhoods, there's homeless people.
Yeah.
And so I think the idea has shifted to now, like, why do we have to go to these far flung parts of the city when we have homeless people right in our own backyard?
Yeah. Trust me, like I work in where you live,
Oh
Andy,
yeah,
and
yeah, that right by
by the bus station.
the metro, yeah, the Metro Link station and the Orange Line. Yeah,
Yeah, they're all up and down Canoga.
yeah. What is it? What is it? The Instagram account Street People of Los Angeles. The person highlighted a video someone took as they're entering into the station, and it's just like, yeah, it's like a third world refugee.
Dude,
Camp.
there was well, when we did talk about that. Well, one, there was a fire that was set by a homeless homeless encampment right by where I live in Van Nuys at a Chase Bank. Like it literally, like it. You were telling me about that. I was like, why is that Chase closed? And it's like, oh yeah, it burned down.
Yeah.
And then same thing. I don't know if you saw it from like about a month ago at the bus station. That fire that got set off on Sunday, like Sunday
Oh
morning,
wow.
like, early in the morning.
I
Yeah,
had no idea.
it was like a huge trash fire that like got out of control. Um, and so yeah, I could like from my because I had to work that morning, and from was it one of my coworkers called me? It's like, dude, are you burning down the freaking post office? Like,
Yeah. Have you finally gone postal?
yeah, it's like no, it's like I was like, no, it's like oh shoot that. And I looked outside, it's like oh shit, that's at the bus station. Yeah, it was this huge fire that broke out, and thankfully it's been so wet.
Mm-hmm.
It didn't like spread into like destroying the whole city.
Right.
It's
Or
so we got
or it didn't do that thing, what is it, like 3 or 4 years ago, where a fire in Riverside, and they claim that the embers were blown up into the air and
bullshit.
carry like over 100 miles and then dropped into the valley.
Bullshit. That was another fire that got set off. Like I'm sorry. Like yes, when it wreaks havoc on like brush fires and shit, it doesn't spread like little tiny embers from like a fire 100 miles away, like skip over a whole bunch of other shit and start a fire somewhere else. I'm sorry, that doesn't happen. That's fucking fantasy.
Yeah. No, particularly because there's one that fire that sparked up. What is it? Near Balboa Lake, like near the driving range,
Yeah.
and like and the basin and the basin, and it happened, and like a fire like sparked up like right in like where like I think like the floodwaters
Yeah.
are. And then they're like, "Oh wow, I can't believe an ember from all the way from Riverside came down and sparked that fire." It's like, bullshit, dude. That was freaking encampment fire.
Yeah. Here,
Especially because I used to go running over there with my friends, at night, and like people like, and when I was running the path, I could smell fire, and so people were starting fires to keep warm and to cook food or whatever. So it's like no, that's bullshit.
Yeah. But it's a just that just doesn't happen. It's like it's either you have one, it's like either like an encampment or it's some sort of like somebody's like, wow, fire looks cool, I'm gonna set one off myself, and like that's what happens.
But particularly at the time that it happened, it's like, yes, we know that there's an encampment there, but they're like, oh wow, look at this totally random thing. Isn't nature crazy? It's like, that's not how it works.
Yeah, it's not how it works. It just like fucking oil does not come from dinosaur fossils. I'm sorry. Chalk that one up with the tooth fairy, buddy. Like, it just doesn't fucking exist.
Yeah, especially like the idea of oil. Just what is it? There's no because if it was all from like a specific point of like sedimentary time, when you kind of like the rings of a tree, you see like sedimentary lines, and it's supposed to like indicate a certain era in time.
Yeah.
Like, you'd only find the oil at that specific like depth, within the ground, but you don't. Like, sometimes you find it like 3 miles down, sometimes you find it 500 feet from the surface.
Yeah.
It's wholly inconsistent to like the theory that it's like organic matter that's been compacted and through time and pressure and whatever. It's like just and decay, it turned into oil.
Yeah, that's why that's what's crazy. Like when I like I said, for years, because obviously I've been hearing the term fossil fuels for most of my life, and I just figured, it's old technology. It's we gotta find something better, more efficient. And I was like, okay, it's a fossil, and it's like, and when you told me, it's like, no, dude, they think that it comes from freaking dinosaur fossils. I was like, get the fuck out of here. And that's why, like, it was Sinclair, like their logo is a freaking dinosaur.
Yeah.
What? I mean, it's like
I was actually flabbergasted that you.
It's an iconic logo. Don't get me wrong, but I'm like,
right. No, I was like, I was so taken aback that that's what you thought it meant, because it's like,
I think mine
we're not that far apart in age, so we came up around the same time, and we went through the school, we mostly went through the same school system. And and even I knew when they were talking about fossil fuels, they were talking about how that they thought that the oil was from the decayed organic matter of living things, and then and I think, and maybe not necessarily dinosaurs, but the idea is like the ancient, like prehistoric organic matter was broken down, and through fossilization and petrification and like pressure and time and heat or whatever, and it created oil.
Fucking stupid.
But stupid. And that and that's why they called it fossil fuels, because it was supposedly made from fossils. But I don't. Yeah, I was like, you really thought? Yeah. Whoa! Like, you thought that? Okay.
Some genius, some expert came up with that, by the way.
Yeah, they did.
Oh my god. But no, like going back to our point, like what you've been doing, I'm just Andy, I'm really excited with what your group is doing. I encourage more churches to kind of do that as well, because I think like if we can do that across the valley, across Los Angeles, and I think eventually we can make a dent. And with people, instead of like donating to like the big like the super big charities that have so much overhead, and the money eventually doesn't really end up getting to where it's supposed to go. but we're funding people who are on the ground actually doing something. They're not just raising awareness or whatever. I think that, I mean, hell, $100,000 to you guys would make a huge help. It would be a huge help.
Absolutely. Yeah.
And you have people who are honest. It's like, yeah, this isn't like going into my pocket. This is going to. We can have more showers. We can have more this. We can have more of this service. We can.
Yeah. Well,
Maybe
just
we
print
can
out
hire.
like more information, like more informational stuff, because they're like we could like do like kind of like a booklet or whatever with different programs or whatever or different resources. It's like it's one thing to have like all of these like informational like cards that or pamphlets that we could like hand out, but like if we could like compile like a book or something with different resources and like numbers or contact people, points of contact for these different resources. How much better off would these people be?
Right, and maybe at a certain point too, like as you guys are getting donations, like maybe it helps getting like like a medical doctor doing like checkups, or like a dentist helping with like whatever, like maybe dental needs that they have. It's
Oh yeah,
all sorts of stuff could like really happen. Like I said, to get
and get people like that that need dentures or that need to get prescription eyeglasses. That money could go to so many great things.
Yeah, and because I'm
again,
always
because we're local and because we're small, that money is going to go to where it needs to, and like you could check on us too, since we are local. You could just come up and like, hey, what do you do with our money? And then we do like, here you are, and like, here you go, this is this is the doctor that we're that we're that we use your money to, so that they could like for their practice, so that they could make dentures for pops over here.
Yeah, it's like I said,
as opposed to like you write a check to Salvation Army, it's like, hey, what are you doing with my money? It's like, oh, let's get back to you on that. Like, oh, one more, please, and like leave you on hold for eternity.
Exactly, and yeah, like I said, I think that my dollar going to you guys would go so much further than anywhere else.
Yeah.
But yeah, like I said, I'm super proud of you, Andy. I love what you guys are doing. I'm praying for you guys. Keep up the great fight, man.
Thank you. It's nice to be appreciated.
Andy, you're always appreciated in my eyes. This podcast doesn't happen without you. You're saving the valley, one homeless person at a time. You're doing great work, buddy.
Thank you. Thank you. Even though I'm sometimes of an asshole.
Well, but you know what? You're a lovable asshole.
True. I know, it's funny. Whenever I serve breakfast at the mobile shower, and I get compliments, he's like, oh, he's like, Andy, you're such a nice person, and I'd always like quickly be like, hey, don't let that get around.
But yeah, exactly. It's like, oh, Andy has a heart. Don't tell him. No,
I know. I was like, hey, keep that in your hat, man. I got a reputation.
It's funny. I think I've shared this story before on the podcast, but like one of my favorite stories of from Dale Earnhardt that was shared after he had died was his church that he went to, they needed a new parking lot. Well, free of charge to the church. He's like, I'm gonna repay. He had all the equipment. It's like, I'm gonna repave your parking lot. I'm gonna pay for everything. He did it himself, I think, too, which is crazy.
Oh, wow.
And he's like, now if you tell anybody that I did this, I'm personally gonna come back and rip this shit up. Because he did not want to, like, it was kind of like, because he's the intimidator. You don't want to like tell people that you're a softie like that.
Right.
So it's like it was kind of part of his persona. It's like, now you tell anybody that I did this, I'll rip this shit up myself. So he didn't share. The pastor kept his word. He didn't share who did it until after
he passed.
Until after he passed, but it's just like, it's stories like that. You kind of have that same fire in you, Andy. It's like, now don't tell anybody that I'm a nice person, okay?
I know, right? Well, it's like, I will make you throw up that breakfast that I fed you.
Yeah, exactly.
Yeah. So don't let anyone know that that I'm a good guy.
That you have a heart of gold.
Yeah. All right. Yeah. Let's get into topics of discussion tonight.
Speaking of other things that plague our city, let's talk about the freaking road situation going on.
Yeah, I was just about to. Okay, that works as a better transition. And Rob, you brought this, or you said that you want to talk about this, so I'll let you have first crack.
I have to say, I don't know about you, Andy. I have not had so many fucking flat tires in my entire driving career until this like past year and a half. Our roads are awful. There is so much debris and shit that is just strewn about. I've had like was it the valve stem in my and personally on my car ended up like there was a like some sort of weird like rock chip that got because the roads are so ripped up, it got churned up because and it knocked into it like caught inside, went through and struck the valve stem part of my tire, and it didn't like shear it off completely, thank God, but it put enough damage into it there where it's like it started to like leak and until it eventually just kind of like that tear started to get bigger and bigger because I was like my tire started to like kind of I was like, man, why is my air pressure so low on my tire? And I was looking at it, it's like it still has air in it, but it's like it was going because my tires run at I think 38 psi, but it was getting down to like 28 to 25 psi. I'm like, and I would fill it up and it'd be fine for about a day and a half. I was like, why does it keep getting so low? And eventually, just like I was at work I had made it home and I had to go pick up my wife for something because she this is before we got her while we were dealing with her whole car situation, and I looked at my tire. I was like, it is completely flat, and I was parked in our parking lot at my apartment, and I was like, why did it go flat? Like, and I was like, did somebody fuck with my tire? I thought somebody was fucking with my tire, to be honest. Like, someone was pissed off at me, so they're unscrewing my thing and putting the air out.
It out, yeah.
Yeah, and so when I called the AAA guy, because hey, I have it. It's like I could do it. I could change the spare myself. It's like, but that's gonna take me a lot longer. So it's like, you know what? Let me call AAA. They're like 10 minutes away, and I'll get a little bit of help. Maybe and kind of maybe having a second opinion. Maybe like see like, hey, is there something wrong with my tire? Did somebody mess with me? And so he helped me put the spare. And I was like, yeah, let's check. Well, let's put air in your tire. Now that it's off, let's see if there's a leak or maybe someone's just saying a happy hello. And if it's just that, then I'll help you put your tire back on. And as soon as like we put air in the tire, you can hear it's a tss, yeah. So it was like, and I was looking, it's like, oh yeah, there's this giant rock chip that like knocked into it. It's like so had to get that fixed. But that was like the second time in like 6 months with my car. I had a similar issue, but thankfully it was my tire has been repairable, or it wasn't the same tire. It was a different tire that had but I was able to get those repaired. And then my wife with her new car, literally like as she's pulling up, she does amateur competitive swimming, and she's pulling into the pool area. And she calls me like right away because she gets out of the car and she hears, and I like she calls me. I'm like, and all I hear is like what I thought was static. I was like, what the fuck is that sound? And it's like, do you hear that? Do you hear that? It's like, I don't know what's happening. I don't know. Like, you have to like explain what's happening. This is not a visual medium. This is like radio to me. Like, what's going on? It's like, do you hear that? It's coming from my tire. It's like it's losing air. It's like, oh shit. and it turned out she had this giant screw that got, thankfully it was in the center, center of the tire, so it was through the
Oh
tread.
yeah.
So, that means it was able to be repaired, which is great. It's like, thankfully we have that technology to do that.
Mm-hmm.
But it's like, we haven't had that car for 2 months, and like already, it's like, I mean, the tires are brand fucking new on that car, and
yeah. Actually, I had a similar situation with my car because just not long after I got my new car, I had a flat in my tire as well. And I thought we fixed it because me and my dad we broke out the old repair kit thing, um, with the Slim Jims. Um,
yeah.
and we fixed it, but then but then I kept losing pressure in my tire. And then I did the whole test with like the soapy water and stuff, but no bubbles. And then I finally go take it in to get it fixed, and it's the wall that got punctured
Oh no, yeah,
as well. And
that's new
so
tire territory at that point.
and then that's like, oh, you have to get new tires.
Yeah, when your sidewall gets fucked up,
Yeah, there's no fixing that.
That it just, but and the reason why, once again, it's the state of our roads that there have been, because people are not paying attention. There's accidents all. I mean, like literally, even before we started the live stream, sirens, because I know there's accidents. Like there's like 3 or 4 just before we, like literally 30 minutes before we started the live stream, and I already know it's like, oh, they're going to an accident. They're going to an accident because people aren't paying attention. But then what happens is that when these accidents happen, there's all this fucking debris that's left on the road, and no one cleans it up. And like I can't tell you how many times I go through an intersection and it's like it looks like all hell broke loose.
Right.
And like
Like the bare minimum that they have to do is just get one of those giant magnet things and just do a sweep.
Yeah, or it's like, and then or have some sort of like, as obviously because they have traffic control, fucking like blow that shit over into like the side of the road at least, like where it's at, like where it's hitting the curb, so it's not like where in the direct travel path of cars going 40 to 60 miles an hour. It's just it's, or for fuck's sake, or maybe just like find something that can vacuum that shit up, so it's not on the road, and then you throw it in the dump, or some sort of storage facility or something. But the way it's just like it feels like that Simpsons episode, like where like it's like, oh, do what you feel like, like you be like Bart, or whatever fake name that Bart came up with that psychologist.
Yeah.
It's just
don't be like Rudiger here.
Yeah, Rudiger. Yeah, thank you. I couldn't think of the name. That's like, yeah, be like little Rudiger, and it's like, yeah, we have a whole society of people trying to be like Rudiger, just like doing whatever the hell they want, not giving a goddamn, and it's like that's your fucking job. And it's like, yeah, and I'm blown away. That's one problem. That's like, honestly, that's a simple solution. That takes an extra 5 minutes of time, maybe.
And if you do the bare minimum, like how I suggested, by running just a magnet over that area, then yeah, there you go. That's 5 minutes. That's 5 minutes of your time, and you're not doing you'll leave like some plastic bits or whatever.
The plastic bits are not gonna get jammed in your sidewall or fuck up your tires.
Exactly.
Okay. The state of the roads, though, and obviously now, because it's just been constant downpouring of rain, but then we have all these damn sinkholes. The roads are getting just churned up, like they're really awful.
Yeah, just like one of the streets that I have to travel down to get to my church. It's all jacked up. There's like whole like chunks out of the street that are just gone. It's like cracks or whatever, but But they were there even before like all the heavy rain and stuff.
Yeah, like I said, this is not it's not caused by the rain. It's just been it's
exacerbated.
The problem that was already there has been exacerbated by all the torrential rain that we've been having. And here's the thing though, we have the technology exists to make roads that last a long time. In case in point, yes, this is these are sports facilities, but like there are racetracks. I'm looking at like Michigan International Speedway. They repaved that track. Oh, I think 2012. So we're looking at like about 11 years old. It's an 11-year-old surface on that racetrack. It looks like it was just paved yesterday. It looks immaculate. Now, obviously, they do a lot of maintenance and upkeep, which is what we should be doing, especially with the amount of taxes that we pay that go to this thing. There is no reason why our roads should look like that. No. It's like, okay, we have this money that's being allocated to this, or should be being allocated to this. Let's take care of our big main roads. Let's make sure that those are paved and paved well, so we don't have to come back 6 months later. Obviously, it's like something like like if there's a broken pipe or something that goes wrong where they have to cut into it. Okay, that's one thing, but like you can repair it back to what you did before. But then now the main roads are taken care of. Those are going to last like 10 or plus years. Now let's fix the small roads, like all the side streets, the place where people live.
Yeah, residential.
And then that way, like, okay, maybe we have to spend okay, or we have to be cheap. We don't have that type of money. We have to be cost effective. Well, I think you are spending twice as much money constantly coming every 6 months and like ripping up the same fucking strip of road and redoing it again. So why don't we just spend the extra money, get it right once, so you only have to do it once every 10 years? You know how much money that would save?
Yeah, absolutely.
And our roads won't be like all crappy. It won't like, and you can structure it to the point where it can handle a 2-ton truck. It can handle like these giant big rigs. It can handle all that stuff. It can handle that weight. There is no reason why they can't make that work. The technology is in place. This isn't 1932. And the roads, well, hell, even the Romans, their roads that they built, that they made 1,000 years ago, still fucking stand.
Yeah, the Appian Way. Well, the Appian Way is the biggest one, and actually, the Appian Way is even more impressive because they cut through a mountain, and this is before explosives.
Yeah, so it's not like it can't be done. I'm just saying, like, how is it that like a civilization? Well, and we've talked about this too before. It's like, these civilizations way back when, they're not dummies. They actually were a hell of a lot smarter than we.
Way more and more sophisticated.
And I say that they're smarter than we are. Yeah, at least when it comes to.
Well, yeah, technically, they're more technically sophisticated than us.
Yes.
Yeah, I mean, going back to the Romans, they developed, waterproof concrete. So you could like mix concrete, and you can go underwater and like create supports for like piers and bridges and things like that, and like the cement would cure underwater.
That's insane. How did they figure that out?
I know, right?
That's brilliant. You couldn't do that today. Like, I don't think it's like, it's gonna get still wet. It's like, oh my god. And it's like, and you want to call these people stupid? I don't think so, buddy.
Or backwards.
Yeah, they're. Oh well, they believed in dumb gods. It's like, yeah, okay. You know what? I'll take that over.
Like, yeah, they built the fucking Colosseum.
which still stands.
Which still stands. I mean, yeah, it's been, but that's only because the fucking like Goths and Visigoths that came and like ripped shit down to build their castles.
Exactly.
But yeah, but generally speaking, the Colosseum is still standing.
Had that been left unmolested, it would look like it did back then.
Yeah, it would look like the Pantheon. The Pantheon, the building. Yeah, that's a building that wasn't touched and it's still standing, and it was built thousands and thousands of years ago.
I'm blown away by it, to be honest. I'm just
seriously.
I don't know.
Actually, I mean, okay, do you have anything? Do you have anything?
No, I'm just like I was just like saying I'm tired of our roads. I like the way our roads are. It's people should be. This should be like one of the number one issues that Southern Californians are getting on about, because this is unacceptable.
Right. Indeed. Yeah, and this isn't the first time we brought this up on our streams or whatever, but I think like as Robert said, because of this isn't a new problem, but with the addition with the factor of the torrential rain that we had, the atmospheric rivers or whatever, it's just made the problems all more obvious. But I do want. I know we didn't necessarily have a second topic, but I just remembered I wanted to talk about this one thing. And again, it's not something that we haven't brought up before, and I was just reminded about. As Robert said, how like people have the gall of saying that people were backwards, way back when. But Mr. Reagan recently put out a video, I think very aptly going into the nuances of slavery.
Yeah. Oh, I did. I have not watched it yet, but I saw that. I was like, oh, I gotta watch this, because
it's as good as you might think.
Okay. Why don't you I'm gonna use the potty real quick, and then I'll hear you. So okay, I want to hear about this.
All right, here we go. So Mr. Reagan, a content creator on YouTube, he put out a video today, and is talking about the nuances of slavery here in America. He makes the caveat of, saying, yes, owning a human being is wrong, and particularly in the way that it was practiced, in America and the West in general, of chattel slavery is completely abhorrent. However, he does go in and parse out the gradations of slavery, and he also and he kind of backs up this assertion with actual recorded interviews from former slaves.
Was he like referencing, like, because I know there was a channel that did like a lot of those recordings, former slaves, which is, I'm so glad that we have that, just because we constantly talk about them without actually like hearing their words a lot of times. And I think it's great that we do have those recordings from like the 20s or 30s of these guys that were still alive. And I'm not saying that like their experience was like, oh, it's great that they were slaves. No, of course not. But I don't think that that time period is so interesting, just because how do I want to put this? It's not what we see. I don't think it is like how it's.
It's not. Yeah, it's
It's
not
not
as
what we think.
bad as we were told, and it's not as great as we think.
Yeah, and when it comes to history, and this is one, this is why I always tend to find it, pretty interesting. But when I'm looking at history, uh, I have to remember, it's like, listen, what's happened is happened. So we have to look at things from an objective standpoint. It's like okay, this is how it was back then. So let's objectively look at the facts. Let's look at, we can look at, in some cases, definitely with like a little bit more of the modern history, we have audio recording, we have video recording, we have interviews with the actual people involved, all sorts of stuff like that. So we have, back in that time, like, thankfully we do have some that lived into like what we would consider the modern era, where there is, some sort of physical recording of their actual words, not just some sort of like letter or document, some sort of document. Um, and and we even had with the former Confederate soldiers, and kind of talking about what were you fighting for exactly? And I think you'd be extremely shocked by what they said. Because, like, was it one of the guys that we listened to after we did our Birth of a Nation review? It's like, well, what did those guys actually think? Like, what exactly were they fighting for? And we were able to find a recording of a guy who survived into the modern era, who was a Confederate soldier. I think he was a prisoner of war too.
Mm-hmm.
And he talked about, he's like, we weren't, there was nothing about, like, in my mind, there was nothing about slavery. We didn't have any slaves in, like, where I lived. We were not a very, we weren't like a wealthy family or anything. We were okay, but we fought to protect ourselves from what we thought was overreach from the federal government, and, like, to keep certain rights that we were promised through the Constitution that we thought were being railroaded, which from based off like some other stuff that we learned about Lincoln, that was exactly what was happening. It's like, it's
Mm-hmm.
so, it's not like I said. I'm not calling like, oh, this guy, these are the good guys, these are the bad guys. I think there's a lot of gray on both sides, and it's just like, why don't, instead of just like being so frothing at the mouth about one side or the other, like, oh, these people are terrible, how can you like revere them or think like well of them? It's like, well, I'm not saying that, like, like they're like my favorite person in history, but like they are definitely interesting and we should learn about them.
Right. Or
They were
yeah, these interviews ought to make you rethink what you were taught in school. You know,
exactly, that's what. And
yeah, because I mean, yeah, it's not recordings, but Mr. Reagan, he goes through transcripts of interviews um, given, and you know, like majority, like I mean, the interviews, they paint, you know, pretty nice pictures of the slave owners. Like one was like a devout Catholic, and he made sure that all of the slaves, like the families, like stayed together, and that they even he even had a priest come in like every Sunday and conduct mass at the chapel on the property.
that's
Um,
interesting.
right? Yeah. And then another interview with a woman who once was a slave. Like she talks about how like she helped raise the master's son, and then the master's son, like when he like came up of age or whatever, he started taking care of that slave. And he treated her like he was like if she was his own blood, like his own mother.
Wow.
You know,
Yeah, that's not something you're gonna hear from the history books.
No, exactly. And I mean, and even Mr. Reagan, he made in the beginning of the video, of course, he made the caveat saying like, owning a person is wrong, and and particularly like the chattel slavery that was in practice in the West is to be is abhorrent. He made that he
Of course,
yeah
and we
yeah,
would all say that.
and we would all say that, but he's saying, but these slaves are painting a picture that goes against the narrative that we've been told our entire lives. And we're not saying that these are the rule, right? Because we all agree and we all accept that there were some real monsters who were slave owners,
Calvin
right?
Candy, Calvin
Yeah,
Candy,
Calvin Candy, Monsieur Candy, if you will.
Monsieur Candy.
Uh, but what we're saying, all we're saying is that it wasn't just like the Calvin Candy kind of living. It was all it was also like even in 12 Years a Slave. You see like you had the what's that actor's name?
The guy who was in he was in Doctor Strange, wasn't he? The guy
Yeah,
who
yeah.
played
Benedict Cumberbatch. Yeah, you had Benedict Cumberbatch, but then you also had
the
why
black.
can't no why can't I remember that guy's name?
He's a great actor, and I can't
No,
remember
no,
his.
no, no, no. But I'm saying like the types of masters you had, the Benedict Cumberbatch kind of master where he treated his slaves well, and he gave them responsibilities, and and because he gave them a certain sense of dignity, like they performed for him. And then you
Yeah.
had he was Magneto in the new X-Men movies.
Oh, Michael Fassbender.
Michael Fassbender, and then you had the Michael Fassbender kind of slave owners who were sick and sadistic, and
both those guys are in that movie.
Yeah,
Get the
and
fuck
and
out.
masochistic. Yeah, that that gift
I've never
that I
seen
sent
the
you.
movie. That's why.
That gift that I sent you. That's him.
No, it is.
Yeah,
Oh my god.
This is my. You're not gonna take him away from me.
Oh, I gotta watch this movie now.
Yeah. Michael Fassbender's character is more of like what we were constantly told, slave owners were like, and then Benedict Cumberbatch was more of like these, genteel slave owners, who treated their slaves right, that didn't, overly demean them,
Yeah.
and so we're not saying that the masters that treated their slaves well are the rule. We're not saying that. We're saying that there's more wiggle room in it.
Well, we even had that with the interview with that one former slave, where he talked about he talks about that same experience too, like where it's like, yeah, it wasn't. I wasn't actually treated I wasn't treated badly. Our owners were actually very kind to us.
Mm-hmm.
They fed us well, they treated us well, and it's like we just weren't free.
Right.
And he says like, now, does that mean that I want to go back to being a slave? It's like, no. And in fact, like to it's even come to the point where it's like I won't even use like credit or any of that stuff because that is a form of slavery.
Mm-hmm.
If I can't buy it with the money I have in my pocket, I don't get it, because I don't want to be owned by anybody by any means. And it's like, whoa, that's an interesting way of looking at, like, that's kind of like he's really pointing the mirror. Well, it pretty much like every country, but definitely ours, like where it's it's like, look at all of you guys, you're now slaves, whether you realize it or not. And it's like, and him being a former slave, knowing what slavery is and can be, is like you all have put yourself in slavery. Like, you put the chains on yourself.
Exactly. It's disguised slavery.
He's like,
I haven't seen it yet, but I haven't even seen like the main show. But there's a TV show Yellowstone, and then they had a prequel called 18.
I need to watch all that stuff because
1889, I believe. And
there's
then
18. 1883 and
1883. There you go. And then the 1920 or whatever.
I've heard great things about all
I
three of them.
I saw a clip from the latest one, 1920 something or other. And the Dutton's family, they're like going through town, and this man selling his wares, and what he's selling is, electric appliances. So like well, the big thing was an electric washing machine for clothes. Right?
Whoa, that's
And so the guy was like giving him the spiel, and like, oh, like, yeah, like, get a lot, your husband can get his clothes as dirty as he wants, because you'll be able to clean them in no time. And then one of the men was like, it's like, yeah, but but like, how would I power it? It's like, oh, well, you have to get electricity installed. Yeah, and that's not going to be free, right? It's like, well, no, of course not. You have to pay the utility, blah blah blah. It's like, so I was like, so we'll basically be enslaved to this machine, because we have to keep working to make money to pay the electric bill, and just like kind of like destroying like the concept of it.
And well, now have we listened to Tesla, that'd be a different story. We'd have.
Oh yeah. If we listen to Tesla, we'd all have Jetsons cars by now.
Yeah, but that's neither here nor there. And we'd also be able to make clones of ourselves.
Yes. Yes, and have pocket-sized earthquake machines.
Exactly. Yeah, all on the Prestige.
Yeah, but do you know about that story about how Tesla built this earthquake machine that's like that could fit in your pocket, and one day in New York he tested it on a building. He put it on the building. He turned it on, and like through the resonance frequency of the building itself, caused it to like shake the entire building with this tiny device that it could fit in his pocket.
That's insane.
I know. Tesla's on totally different level.
That's a guy.
If true, wow.
And to be honest, with what that guy was doing and thinking about, I believe it. I believe he could have done something like that.
Yeah, because I mean, he was working out a way to actually electrify the entire country and even the world, and like and what is it? And he was actually working on a way to send electricity over great distances without the need of wires.
Yeah, I do remember reading about that. I was like, man, how our world would be so different had we listened to this guy. Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's just I find that.
Although I do think that we are severely less advanced than we ought to be, and I think I think a lot of it has to do with like companies buying the patents on things and then just
sitting
just sitting on them. So like I've heard stories of they don't want the competition. Like I heard like oil companies buying up motors that could run on water, and then they just go in and they offer the guy like millions of dollars, and they take it, and then they take the design or whatever or the plans, and they just sit on them, because if they implemented this, then they'd be out of business.
Yeah, it's that's the unfortunate thing. It's like
or like the kind of like, and again, like because I've said like I really enjoy alternative history. Like one of the kind of seedier or one of the alternative reasons why there was a prohibition was to keep farmers from creating their own diesel out of ethanol. Because like the diesel that we get now is not the diesel that was originally devised by, I think like by Henrik or some German guy, like maybe like Heinrich Diesel, because his name was actually Diesel, and so like his was based on like ethanol, which you can make ethanol from corn,
which grows like fucking weed in this country.
Exactly, and and farmers, because they made like they would make their own liquor too. they were able to bypass entirely the oil industry and create like this kind of like this
Oh, is
almost
this
like biodiesel.
Like a William Randolph Hearst and hemp situation?
Something like that, yeah. Because like, why was there such a push for prohibition?
That's a
because the farmers, they were making their own. They were making their own booze and by default making their own ethanol, and so they were able to make their own biodiesel.
Yeah, that's interesting. I had never thought about that because I thought it was just like insufferable busybodies that the church ladies that just.
Well, I mean, yeah, because I'm sure like Standard Oil, like they use, again, kind of like useful idiots or proxy warriors. They were using the temperance movement to further their own designs.
Oh man, that's really interesting. No, I don't know why I had never thought about that, but that makes a ton of sense.
Right? Yeah. Just look into the history of diesel, because like, yeah, we think of diesel as like something that the oil company produces, but if you look back into the history of like how it started, and it's like we like the whole point of it was so that we could make our own fuel.
Yeah, honestly, we have way too many corporations that have a stranglehold on society in general, and that shit needs to fucking end. I'm not saying like it's bad to make money or whatever, like it's like, and we unfortunately when we think about business, we think of like the people who tend to get like hurt the most or vilified the most are what we technically what they are. Yeah, they make good money, sure, but they're technically small businesses. They're not making like $1 billion. Like they might make like in total maybe like $20 million a year out of over the whole year, but that's not going straight to the CEO. Like
Right.
like a very small fraction, like maybe 500,000 is actually going to the CEO. And it's the rest of it's going towards the business, towards the employees, their salary, so on and so
Right.
forth.
Like
But
in
those are the
terms
guys
of
that get vilified. The people who don't get vilified, who like who get lauded as like these great intellectuals, like you have Microsoft, you have like all the social media guys. Those guys
Apple.
are making billions, like billions, not just $1 billion. They're making several billion
Multiple
dollars.
billions of dollars.
Yeah, and but like these are the great minds of the world. I mean, like it's like, but yeah, but you know what they're doing also? These are the guys that are behind that are like Pfizer's another one. They're stuffing. They're creating fake shit or stuff. They're buying up stuff so that they can sit on technology that would make them obsolete and useless. And it's like, oh well, they're doing great things. It's like, no, they're holding people back because they want to hold. And to be honest, like their riches are not going to go away. It's like the CEO, like those company, those guys are still going to be rich. It's like they want to hold on to power. That's what it is. It's not about the money. It's about the power, and they want to have the power for as long as they can, like cling on to it. And I think that's why it's so hard for when we have transitioning technologies. Why it becomes so hard is because they have these CEOs are clinging on to power so much. You have people that are in those industries that are, oh no, how dare you take away my job? Because it's the CEO is not going to get fired first. It's all the other smaller employees, and so they see these technologies as a threat to their livelihood. Where in reality, like what we should be doing is, okay, it's like we have these new technologies that are coming. Why don't we transition these people that already have kind of a semi working knowledge of like the old technology, and it's just kind of it's most technology. It's not just something like completely brand new that like are out of the blue. It's changing existing technology, making it better. As like I said, like the supposedly the engine that runs on water. Well, these people already know how to build engines. Like they should be out of a job. It's like, okay, well, here's how we have to build it a little bit differently. Cool, I'm in. Like, why should those people be out of a job? And it's so dumb. And it's like because the guy that has the patent on a motor that can that can run on water, that should be the new CEO. It's like, well, I'm going to take all these employees from this guy. He'll still have his money, but like he just doesn't have a business anymore.
Yeah,
It's just
absolutely.
But going back to your original point, though, is like, people are so scared to really think critically about that time period in the 19th century. And it was a very complicated period of time. And it wasn't just in this country. I mean, things were happening all across the globe in like around that middle of the 19th century. Like 1848 is one of like the biggest years uh, in world history that like stuff really started to shift all over the place. Japan started to change, Europe started to change, America was starting to, the United States was going through a lot of change, and so the time period should be looked at. It should, and we have to get over the fact that like, oh, uh, this thing happened. Okay, well, we can't comment really on that anymore. We are looking at it from the future. All we can do is be objective observers of like what was actually happening. And okay, we have this bit of information. Let's see where this information. Then we have this bit of information. Do they line up? Do they make sense? Um, and that's how you grow when you have all the information at your hands, and you're able to like look at things objectively. And like we've caveat, we had that caveat. Do we agree? No one likes slavery here. I'm not like, yeah, woo. That was a time to be alive, baby. During
No
the
one's saying slavery was awesome.
Yeah.
No one's saying that here, all right? No one's saying.
No, of course not.
But it's chronological snobbery to take your ethics today and then apply them to a completely different context, a completely different cult. Like, if you think about it, like there's like the American culture of the 1890s to the throughout the different eras, it's completely different. So you can't really say, oh, American culture. It's like the culture in 1890 was completely different from the American culture in 1990.
Yeah.
And so but then to go back and apply your morality or ethics from today back then is completely disingenuous.
Exactly, because you know what's going to happen 100 years from now? They're going to say the same thing about us. Like, and it's exactly. Like, look at these backwards fucking jerk offs.
I know. It's like look at them. They're killing their own babies. What a bunch of savages.
Exactly.
Yeah, that's gonna happen.
Of course it is. But
yeah, hopefully by then, they'll say that, but they're like, but it was also a different time, and I'm not gonna condemn an entire time period.
Yeah,
based on the actions of a few people.
Not every person from that time period was awful. Not like Mr. Reagan was commenting on. It's like maybe not all slave owners were bad people. Mm-hmm. It's like and it is a horrible practice. It 100% all across the board a horrible practice, and unfortunately that it was in some cases it was thrust upon people. Like, it's not like that they wanted it themselves. It's not like they built their plantation from the ground up and kept up buying up slaves from from day one when they could. No, it's like a lot of these people, a lot of these things were inherited.
Right, and I'm glad you said that, because I don't know if you're familiar with this podcast, but it's called the Whatever Podcast.
No, I've never heard of it.
Yeah, but it's similar to a lot of like these, like how we discussed last week about like these kind of like dating red pill podcast. But Michael Knowles was on it.
Oh, was he?
Yeah, he was. It's a really long podcast, so like if you don't have the stamina to,
I don't.
These podcasts go for very long times. But if you have the stamina, maybe go watch it. But I didn't. I caught towards the tail end, and Michael Knowles was on, and like it's funny because this one other character, she's kind of become a meme, because she rage quit the last podcast over a traditionally Christian guy saying that he wouldn't sleep with a trans female because that'd be gay, because the trans female is a biological.
Yeah.
Wow. I don't know if you caught it, like, on social media or anything, but
no, I haven't. No, that's
yeah, but she rage quits at that. But Michael Knowles being a very very erudite, but also a really good debater.
He is very skilled.
Yeah, and he's so wickedly smart.
And he doesn't. Here's the thing: he also doesn't get mad. Like
right. Yeah,
he's very calm.
He never gets out of second gear. But yeah, this girl, so Michael Knowles and this girl were on, and she's typical like kind of man hating feminist, but also like, oh, America sucks, and she brought up, well, I don't know how it came up, but the thing about slavery and how anyone who owns people is a bad person, and she brought up George Washington, because like, oh, George Washington had slaves. Does that mean that means he's a bad person? And then Michael Knowles just like kind of schools her on it. So, well, actually, George Washington actually inherited his slaves, from his father, and he had, he didn't like slavery either, and he made it, and he basically in his will he put it that once he passed away, his slaves would be freed.
Yeah.
Yeah, because like one, like he lived, he had a plantation, and he can't just like let all of his slaves free or whatever, and again, it's that
there were certain like unfortunately, like, yeah, that sounds awful on the face of it, but here's the thing is that the laws that were in place at the time, it's very complicated because right. Just like letting a bunch of people go, like because of like the way that it sounds ugly that they were considered property. Well, there's a certain value that was attached to the property at time, and like it's like it would almost, it's something to do with like, it would have almost been like bank fraud or or some sort of like a financial fraud that they would be committing by just letting them go,
right,
at the drop of a hat. And so he was doing what he could with the laws that were in place at the time, and the majority of the founders, say what you will about them, actually did not like slavery. If you look at the
right, and again, yeah,
the drafts of not only the Declaration but the Constitution, all the letters that were passed around indicate that they did not like this, and they kept it because they wanted to, at the time, to solidify this. We needed to stand together, and there were people who did want slavery, and if they had outlawed it then, it's like, nope, not going to happen. We're not going to sign. It's like, fuck, we need them, and so they're stuck. But they allowed room within the Constitution and everything, that eventually there's going to come a time where we can end this horrible practice. Right. And the founders believe in that.
Yeah, it goes to their brilliance, and also their trust in the following generations to take care of this, because they put in the mechanisms for us to deal with it later,
right?
And we did.
And just like the founders personally, like, George Washington didn't, like, he didn't buy the slaves. He had that institution thrust upon him. Mm-hmm. Our country had that institution thrust upon them.
Right, exactly, because we were a product of Great Britain, and and so we had all this same customs and ethics and whatever that Great Britain had.
Yeah, and that institution was thrust. It was inherited. Exactly. And we did, and unfortunately, it had been in an institution for so long before we even became a country that, it's like it wasn't just so easy as like, you're free. It's like it wasn't that simple. It was a very complicated. It had become a very icky, complicated situation that even at the time in the 18th century, people were uncomfortable with it. They didn't like it.
Right. Yeah,
but
and I mean, and just to go, just to give them to heap more credit on the founding fathers, you can't have a line that says, all men are created equal, and then but say like, oh, but slavery's a-okay with me. No, it's completely disingenuous.
Yeah, and like I said, when you look at all the different drafts that were proposed, and like the stuff that you'll notice
drafts
like,
that are still available to, I mean, not actually physically see, but like the scans and whatever, you can see like they had it in there saying like trying to get rid of slavery.
Yeah, exactly. It's like, and that's where like, but people don't want to like dig that far, because it's like, oh, that changes my whole worldview, my whole narrative. It's like, oh, maybe this country isn't so bad.
Yeah,
maybe they were trying.
I know it was a bit in Dave Chappelle's comedy thing where it's like, like, oh, like we hold these truths to be so that all men are created equal. It's like, now go make me a sandwich, nigger.
Yeah, it's just like, it's not what it was. It's like but it's it's like that's I do. That was a funny bit.
It's a funny bit, yeah, but it's like, but it's wholly disingenuous to think that a man could, that these men wrote that line, that all men are created equal, and then also say like, but condone slavery. No, you can't. It's impossible.
Now, did they use language and maybe have thoughts about like black people that would be considered very
problematic?
Yeah, God, I hate that word. But
I know.
For the lack of a better term, problematic. And it's like, yeah, of course. And guess what? If you go back to any time period, there's always going to be some sort of like language that's used where it's like, oh, that's kind of, I don't like that.
Yeah,
it's like,
that makes me uncomfortable.
Yeah, and guess what? 100 years from now, they're going to look at stuff that we said. It's like, ooh, what the hell are they talking about? Like,
yeah, maybe in 100 years' time, they actually like successfully shame people for saying, like, even black people for saying nigger, and so like they'll see this clip of me saying nigger, and they're like, oh, what a savage.
Yeah, or it's like that. They didn't think babies were people. What the fuck?
Yeah, like, oh, they thought men could be women.
Yeah, or like that. They kept talking about this like slavery that didn't exist, but then they didn't fight the slavery that is actually still going on in their time. Like what?
Right, exactly.
The freaking like labor and like sex slavery that's still constant, that is still happening today all around the world. Mm-hmm. The Arabic slave trade is still going on, people.
Yeah, I mean,
not in every Arabic.
I mean, I'm not saying this was a great thing, but when we got rid of Gaddafi, they have open air slave markets right now in Libya.
No one wants to. That's very inconvenient for a lot of people.
It's a very inconvenient truth, but I acknowledge. Yeah, America, America done goofed.
Yeah.
All right, but let's let's try and rectify our mistakes.
Yeah. But no, I just, like I said, that time period is so fascinating to me. Mm-hmm. And you see, like I said, you see the nuggets of how that's affected today, like, and because of because we haven't really learned from that time period, because we've been like, oh no, it's like you have people that are too caught up in like the black and white of the situation. They're not actually seeing the whole picture. They're just seeing what they want to see, and they make up a narrative about it.
Right.
And
Well, yeah, because like the people who say like, oh, this is only, America's only uh, was only founded for the prosperity of white people. It's like, where does that
nope,
say that in the founding documents? Why
nowhere.
doesn't it say all white men are created equal? It doesn't. It says
No.
all men are created equal.
In no available draft or in the final document does it say that.
Exactly. It's found. The country, the America was not founded for the prosperity of white people alone. It's patently absurd for anyone to even make that argument.
And even like when you look at and even as troublesome as he's becoming in my eyes, but Martin Luther King Jr. when he was making that speech, it's like he was invoking the idea of like what the promise of the Constitution,
Right. Yeah.
the Declaration,
The
and
Constitution was a promissory note that
he felt it had not been fulfilled, and
mm-hmm.
he was requesting the country to fulfill the promise.
to honor, to live up to it. Yeah.
Exactly. And to be honest, I think that's why that speech is so significant and so important, and why it's still
Right, because
remembered.
it wasn't denigrating the United States. It was reminding them of, hey, you have really good ideas.
Yeah, and you had
Here's
this
one of
promise.
them. Liberty and justice for all.
Yeah. So it's yeah, there's it's not just for it's not like for it's not for any people group. It's for all people. Human beings that live in this country that are Americans. This is the promise. This is the standard that we want to live by. We have maybe not always lived by that standard, but that's the standard that we hope to achieve. Do you want to live by that standard? Do you want to help make that standard a reality? Well, come be an American.
Absolutely.
And like I said, it has always been a struggle. And guess what? 20 years from now, 50 years from now, 100 years from now, there's gonna be struggles, and we're not gonna always live up to what the Constitution says. But you know what? It's until something better comes along, it's the best fucking thing that we can live by, and we can try to live by.
Right.
And
Yeah,
that's why.
Yeah, if if tomorrow we're able to colonize space or whatever, probably one of the only things I would take is like the first iteration of Declaration of Independence and Constitution.
Yeah, well, I've talked about it. It's like I think we need to kind of go back to.
Well, and like the whole shall not be infringed. Like we really mean it.
Yeah, like if you try to infringe, like we're coming after you.
Yeah, and no women voting.
Jesus Christ. Oh, Andy.
And I'm firm on that. All right, no women voting.
See, I'm just more like,
again, if we're able to go and colonize and start like an entirely new civilization, I'm taking original draft. I'm taking a first final draft of the Constitution.
All right, I can go with that.
All right, but we're not making any amendments.
Well, who is it that I forgot which one of the founders says like he actually didn't want there to be a Bill of Rights, but at least the original 10 is like, thank God those are in place, because that could have been a whole huge issue had we not had at least the original 10 in place.
Yeah.
Because that the government would have just Because you're saying it's like these are all like just like no brainers. Why would we put this in there? It's like, well, I mean, and he didn't see the fact that it's like, yeah, we're gonna have people that are gonna try to take those away. It's already happening.
Yeah, I mean,
it was happening 100 years ago.
Dude, it happened it happened within the decade of the founding of the country.
Yeah, I know. It's another thing people don't realize.
Yeah, people don't realize. Yeah, like what is it? One of the first things was like the Whiskey Rebellion.
Yeah. Oh God.
Lest people forget.
That actually might be something fun to cover, because who the hell like talks about the Whiskey Rebellion anymore?
I know, right? Yeah, again, it's part of like the history that we're never taught. It's like, the founders knew that like we could lose our republic. So it's
inside of a generation.
What's that old saying? It's something like something about having a republic only if you can keep it.
Yeah.
So yeah. One of the first tests of our new nation was, again, an example of government overreach. And what was it? Taxes on whiskey.
Yep. Man, don't tax us. But like now it's like now people are like, why isn't the government just taxes, just more taxes, like, but no, it's only about like the top 1.01%, like the tippy top of the tippy top. No one making over like this amount of money is ever going to be taxed. Like, yeah, that's bullshit.
Yeah,
trust me.
Yeah.
The more
even Biden's promise of like, oh, no one making less than what is it, 400,000 a year.
No one named Joe Biden making $400,000 a year is going to be taxed.
Yeah, essentially. Essentially.
Oh God.
But
well,
yeah. So yeah, take some time, do a little research. Don't engage in chronological snobbery.
Yeah, it's okay to like look at this stuff and maybe your mind's gonna be changed. Like just look at what's there. It's not conspiracy theory. It's not any of that stuff. And
it just might be fact.
Exactly.
It just might be
and
fact.
We all know that history is written by the winners, but we do have sources from the losers. And this is one of those things where we do have a lot of Confederate sources that are talking about that time period, and it's not quite as like they're not quite as evil as you might think.
Yeah. I guess. One last thing I think Bonaparte had like the best take on history, and his quote was, "History is just lies that everyone agrees upon."
Yeah, ain't that the truth?
All right. That's all I got to say. Yeah, that was about that. Let's get into the movie review. Wrap things up.
Yeah, let's do it.
All right. Just to remind you guys, this month's theme is memory, and tonight the movie review is for The Bourne Identity, starring Matt Damon, Julia Stiles, Franca Potente, Brian Cox, Chris Cooper, and the like. Let me hit y'all with the synopsis and we'll get going. All right. The story of a man salvaged near death from the ocean by an Italian fishing boat. When he recuperates, the man suffers from total amnesia without identity or background, except for a range of extraordinary talents in fighting, linguistic skills, and self-defense that speak to a dangerous past. He sets out on a desperate search, assisted by by the initially rebellious Marie to discover who he really is and why he's being lethally pursued by assassins. The Bourne Identity out in 2002, starring Doug Liman.
Directed by Doug Liman.
Directed by Doug Liman. I meant adapted from the novel of the same name. Let's get into the review.
Yeah, when did you first come to the Bourne Identity? Were you like me, where because I went the opening night to watch this in 2002.
I don't think I watched it opening night, but I did watch it in theaters. I remember that.
Yeah,
but I was aware of it, and initially I thought it was just gonna be another kind of action spy movie.
Yeah,
but it ended up being just a little bit more.
Yeah, because to me, this was a change in the action spy thriller type of movie because, well, and to their credit, they Doug Liman and Matt Damon says like yes, there is a lot of action, but we focus more on characters and story, and I think that's pretty prevalent in the movie. This also is the cinematography in this. Well, at the time, was completely different. Just as far as it felt like it almost had this like weird sense of realism. Like you're following along with the action, and this also unfortunately spawned a bunch of like people who were trying to recreate this, but a lot of films never quite could follow what the Bourne series did.
Right. They just couldn't get the secret sauce just right.
Right. One film that I think of, and it's a film that I like, but the way that the camera angle, I was thinking, Man on Fire is one with Tony Scott, directed by Tony Scott, starring Denzel Washington. Try to emulate the same fucking camera movements that the Bourne Identity started, and it is horrible. It's just like the rest of the movie is awesome, but like the camera, the way that they tried to emulate the Bourne Identity is awful. I hate the camera angles. I kind of hate the cinematography of that movie. But for the Bourne Identity, it works. It's because it's much more subdued. It's really more or less like when someone is like running, or like the car chase scene, something like that.
Yeah.
But yeah, I think that the overall, like this, I think this movie is just great. Like, and but like, what are your thoughts on the film, Andy? Like, how did you feel about it when you first saw it?
Oh, I absolutely loved it. Of course.
Yeah.
Because again, thought it was going to be just another action spy movie, but it became much more. Because like how you said, how this movie, the action set pieces are amazing, but then it's more about the one-on-one time that you have with Jason Bourne and the girl Marie, and then also even with like the kind of frantic running, the kind of the frantic scrambling of the CIA, and they're trying to they're trying to figure out like what Bourne is doing. Like is he is he going off is he going off script? Is he going is he they is he defecting, or like like they don't know what Bourne's angle is on this.
Because I wouldn't necessarily, I wouldn't say that they are. I mean, as much as I hate the government, I don't see like some of the government agents as being evil per se. I mean, they are the antagonists of the film.
I would say it's more. Yeah, I would say I would characterize it more as a of a callousness.
Yes, they are. That is very true. They are very callous. Now, it isn't until you get into some of the sequels where you see some of the evil characters.
Right.
But like in this film in particular, I don't see necessarily evil. I see, yeah, like you said, callousness is definitely more. And like you said, they wanted their agents that they don't understand what's going on with him, and so. And I don't think that they fully understand what is going on with the agents themselves. You know, they have Julia Stiles' character, Nikki. I think that's her name, right? Nikki?
Yeah, the character, yeah.
And she is one of the people that are in charge of looking at the health of these of these characters.
Right. Just like she observes and makes assessments.
Yeah. And so she knows a little bit of like what they're going through, and I think that like because the idea behind this I think was like what was the MK Ultra stuff, like where like there were soldiers that were being tested with certain things and
put under like great duress and and duress and like stressful situations. Yeah.
So it's just like I don't think that the government understood like what they created in a lot of ways, and as the movies progress, like and especially going into the Bourne Legacy, which people didn't like that one. I was like, are you kidding me? Like I think that was a brilliant film where you get to see like the less like what not like a failed version of Bourne, but was like a one of the earlier experiments that was done with one of these soldiers, and it's like he didn't quite. He was still skilled, but it was because he had certain enhancements that were done to him through medication.
Right.
And like Jason Bourne, who I forget what his end up becoming his real name at the end of the series, but he is
David Webb.
David Webb, thank you. Yeah, he is the one that was like their prime, like best one. Like he's better than all of them, and so he's kind of like their prize pony that they laud.
Right. I mean, in a very dark way, he's their Steve Rogers.
Yeah. Oh God, that's really actually scary to think about. Yeah, he is. Yeah. I could actually I could have had this been made, let's say, 10 years later, Chris Evans would play this part.
Oh yeah, easily.
Well, I think I think he would kill it actually had they done this with Chris Evans. That would have been interesting. Oh yeah. But yeah, like I said, what did you think of Marie by any chance? Because I know a lot of people hate her character. I'm not one of them. I actually don't mind her character. I think her reactions make sense to me in a lot of ways.
Yeah, I mean, particularly if you take into account that she's kind of a drifter, a gypsy type, and so like she's put in like these weird, like these not weird but unusual circumstances, but her life being so unconventional, like she's easily able to kind of roll with it. But in a way, she's basically Stockholm syndrome.
You think that? Yeah. Oh yeah. Yeah. I could see that. It's because my wife loves. This is probably my wife's favorite action film. She watches the Bourne trilogy pretty religiously. Like she loves it, and she likes Matt Damon a lot.
Yeah.
But yeah,
really quickly, man, he was so young in this.
Well, this is very early on in
Yeah,
his
it's
career.
very early on in his career. Yeah.
This is
But
only
yeah, it was just surprising because I'm so used to like. I mean, I know obviously he was young back then, but it's like he's old man Matt Damon, and then seeing him like kind of fresh face, it's like whoa, it was kind of jarring.
so his two big movies to that point. Obviously, Good Will Hunting, which is a great film that I don't think we've covered that yet, have we?
No, I don't think we have.
Yeah, we'll have to do that at some point.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't think we did Saving Private Ryan either. We chose a different film.
I think no, we have review Saving Private Ryan.
Did we do that? I thought we
Yeah.
did a. Okay. Oh, you know what? Yeah, we did. We did.
Yeah.
I was thinking
But
like, no, choose a certain different film. Like, oh, it was we chose Lincoln instead of Glory. That's what we
yeah.
did.
Mm-hmm.
But yeah, no,
But another movie that people seldom remember him in, but I think he did a great job, and he kind of did the Christian Bale thing where because his character becomes a drug addict, and so he lost a lot of weight.
which
Uh,
film is this?
this is Courage Under Fire. Yeah, Courage Under Fire.
I have
Uh,
never even heard of this film.
yeah, it's kind of a how would I put it? It's kind of a procedural because and this one's another kind of star-studded flick, but Denzel's in it.
What?
Meg Ryan is in it. Uh, what's his face? I mean, I know he's not a A-lister, but Lou Diamond Phillips is in it.
Hey, I like Lou Diamond Phillips. He's
Yeah,
awesome.
I do too. But yeah, he's in it. Who else is in this movie? Oh, one of my favorite actors, Scott Glenn. He's in this movie too.
Oh, okay, dude, I gotta watch this movie. This sounds awesome. I've never even heard of it.
Yeah, it's a kind of an investigation sort of thing. Meg Ryan's character is a chopper pilot, and she's killed in action, and she's going to be posthumously awarded the Medal of Honor. But first there has to be an investigation, and then as Denzel, and then Denzel has like his own kind of trauma thing uh, woven into this movie, but like he as he's investigating this, like certain like the stories aren't adding up. The testimonies of like the witnesses and things like that aren't adding up, and it's kind of a mystery.
What is this, like 2000, 2001?
No, earlier, like late '90s.
Really? Oh wow.
Yeah.
I've never heard of this film. Because I was gonna mention like a film that I actually really don't like is The Talented Mr. Ripley.
Oh yeah, with him and was it
Jude Law and Gwyneth Paltrow. I really did not like that movie at all. Like that left a bad taste in my mouth.
Oh yeah, it is. Yeah, Courage Under Fire from 1996.
Wow. Oh no, I because that so that's
Oh yeah, Belky's in this. I forgot.
yeah, because that is that.
Oh, it's Sean Astin.
Wow, that is a star-studded film.
Jesus. Oh yeah, he is in this movie. Yeah.
Yeah.
At the beginning. So yeah.
But the films that really put Matt Damon on the stage were it was initially Good Will Hunting. Then he's not the main character in Saving Private Ryan. And so he is starting to burge. And then Talented Mr. Ripley, I know it did well, I think. And that was another popular film that I don't like it. But we'll cover it at some point, and I'll tell you why I don't like it. But then this film is like, but it was all dramas. It's all okay. So he can do dramas well. He can do but this film, I think, really took Matt Damon to the next level, where it's like, oh, he can. Yeah, well, although the Bourne Identity is a drama, it is an action film at the same time, and so it's like, I didn't know he could do that, and I think most people are looking at it as like, Matt Damon in an action film, what the hell? And it's like, oh, damn, this guy is pretty good. It's like, and so I think that just took the audience, where it's like it took him from like, oh, he's a good actor, to like, oh, this guy is like one of the stars. Like, he's gonna be, he's the next big thing. And damned if he wasn't, like, because he was in so many great movies. And I find I like all like the casting. It's like I think I once I can't think of like who else I would want to cast in these roles. I think everyone plays it pretty well. I think the story is really engaging because you know you're you're with Jason and Marie. It's like, well, I don't know who I am. I don't know what's wrong with me.
Mm-hmm.
I have like these flashes of memories, and I know I have these abilities, but I don't know where they came from. And it's like you're trying to, and we're given little snippets of like there's this story that that Jason doesn't remember, and like our main characters don't remember or don't know about, and it's like, oh, okay, now like the government knows the actual story and they're trying to cover it up, and they're utilizing other you know for lack of a better term, other Bournes, to like kind of eliminate the one that they
or
think
other
is
super soldiers.
yeah, the other super soldiers. One of them is played by Jude Law, no, not
Clive Owen. Clive
Clive
Owen.
Owen. Clive Owen. I always get those two mixed up. Clive Owen, who, God, that guy has not done a lot in a while. It's like and he's a good actor.
Yeah. I know
Um,
Clive Owen. Yeah, it's like Clive Owen. Like it's like they kept trying to make him an A-lister, but it just wasn't working.
and I think that was his downfall. It's like because he's a great actor, and he's done good like Inside Man. He was good in this. He was good in Children of Men. But like, I think had he just been more of like a working guy, like hey, like he's like the second lead, or he's like kind of maybe put him in some
Yeah,
ensemble.
I think if he went the career route of Robert Duvall, I think he would have done a lot better.
Yeah, I think that would have been perfect for him, and we've seen him in more stuff. But
yeah, because like look at Robert Duvall, like
that guy worked forever.
He worked forever, and he's no slouch. Like people people still revere Robert Duvall just because of because they still recognize his immense talent.
Yeah, I mean it's like
even though he's like kind of like the more support character, or he played he's a great character actor.
Yeah, when we know he's gonna be in a film, it's like, oh, he's gonna elevate the rest of the cast. He's gonna make them look good.
Yeah,
and that's the type of guy he was. He made everyone else look good. And I think that Clive Owen could have done that too, like had he been allowed that type of opportunity. Because I think he, although he's not like a lead in this, like he's like kind of we only see him for maybe like 10 minutes in the movie. I think he elevated the performance he made. He was kind of like one of the
particularly at the end when him and Bourne have that exchange. And he's like and he's relating to him like as like a fellow like operative or whatever, and someone who's gone through that specialized training.
Do you get the headaches?
Yeah, you get the headaches. It's like, oh, look what they make of us. And
yeah,
that simple. That's I don't know why, but that simple line
like 5 lines.
Yeah, and like that, but that simple line is like, oh, look what they make of us. It's like that was so powerful.
And that made an impact on Jason Bourne.
Mm-hmm.
That made an impact on him because that really. I mean, he was already. I think once he knew what he was, but then he encountered another one just like him, and it's like, oh, look what was done to us. It's not just me; it's more than me. Like they've done this to many people,
right?
And it's like I think that affected him, and we see that throughout the course of the films. What was the other question I had for you about this film that underrated car chase scene in this one. Like, I think this is one of no one really talks about the car chase scene in this film.
I don't know. Well, that was actually, it's weird because that was one of the big selling points of this movie about how, this car chase scene was, even like, because they equated a lot to, what was that movie with Gene Hackman that we watched?
The French Connection?
The French Connection, yeah. Like, people were like comparing it to that car chase scene. It's like, oh, this is better than The French Connection.
Oh, but no, first of all, bullshit it is. But then, but number two is like, but it's very good. Because when I think of car chase scenes, obviously, French Connection and Bullet come up right away. Those
Right.
are like that's the top of the class. But we have movies like Ronin. I think then there's this film, and then one. I don't know if we talked about the first one of the, but the Jack Reacher with Tom Cruise. That car chase scene in that film is great.
And Robert Duvall's in that movie too.
He is.
Yeah.
But yeah, no, I just
But I digress.
I think of over to, I remember that was one of like the big selling points. And for me, in my head, I was like, bullshit, it is. But because I grew up watching The French Connection, it's like nothing's gonna top that. But I think as time has gone on, people have forgotten how good this car chase scene is, because it is a good one. And the director says, like, now if you live in Paris, this car chase scene makes no sense because none of these streets connect.
Right.
But who cares? Because who amongst us like is from Paris? I'm not, so I don't care. It looks great.
Exactly. It looked cool.
Exactly.
They're definitely following the rule of cool for this car chasing.
Bingo. And when I think of like the great action films, obviously you and I both love stuff like Police Story and like the Jackie Chan like action stuff, Ip Man, stuff like that. And so those action scenes are different because they have that kind of that long that wide lens on, like, right. It's like, oh, we're not cutting away from the action, we're seeing stuff like that. Now, Matt Damon did train really hard for this role. He did I think a good like 90% of the stunts of the film. Like there was he did a lot of it. I think, I'm not sure about the car chase scene. Like I don't know how much of that he actually did. I didn't get a chance to watch all the behind the scenes stuff that I wanted to going into the review, so I'll have to look into that. But as far as like the actual combat stuff, he was doing that. He trained really hard. He worked on different martial arts forms, and because he says, like, I want this to be as real as we can possibly make it. And I think in a lot of ways he wanted to prove not only to the audience but to himself, I can do this. And I think the physical performance of that Damon presents in this film is not only like believable, but it's really good. And he's not necessarily like shooting a bunch of guns outside of like the kind of like the final like fight scene, but he fights a dude with like a towel, a pen. I mean, that, like when he stabs that dude in his
right,
hand.
The hand. Oh man, that's so brutal. And it's and again, it's like something that we haven't seen before.
No, it's done with it's like he's doing a MacGyver fighting. Like he's fighting with like he fought a dude. I think this is in the second one where he fought a dude with a fucking magazine.
Yeah.
It's like
there's like there's improvisation in fighting. Like I mean, I think for those of us who grew up in like the 90s and stuff, and like Jackie Chan was the king of improvised, weapons, fight choreography.
I believe that Matt Damon probably watched those films and like, hey, why don't we try this? Let's make him like be able to use, because a gun and like kind of like normal weapons, that's too easy.
And a knife, yeah, sure, okay.
How can we make this different and fun and like kind of like we're
interesting,
doing something that we're doing something different than everyone else is doing? And well, hell, you look at a Jackie Chan film, that's different. No one, who the hell else is using a freaking like he's trying to hold up a vase and like he's fighting a dude. It's like
or just like or like what is it? There's another movie. It was a Hong Kong export, but he uses ladders, or he uses folding chairs, or he uses the jacket of the opponent that he's fighting, and like ties him up in it, and beats, and
Exactly.
elbows him,
and that's kind of like what Jason Bourne does. He's using a pen. He's using a magazine. He's using he's able to he has moves that is able to
he locks a guy in a door. He locks a guy in a room with a freaking file cabinet.
Yeah, exactly.
I mean, this is in the second one.
The second one, yeah. But it's stuff like that. That's what and I think when that was so unique about the film at the time is we haven't seen this before. This is very, and I mean, unless you've watched Hong Kong cinema, especially Jackie Chan films, this is so different. And I wasn't as familiar with those films when I watched this for the first time. I came all to that stuff at after I watched this film, because the friend that I watched it with, someone who's been on our show, my friend Peter, that was the guy I watched movies with every single week. We were at the movie theater 2 or 3 times a weekend. And then when we weren't at the theater, we rented movies and we were watching movies. It's hey, have you checked out this kung fu film? And and so it's oh, and I didn't realize at the time, but I was learning about film doing that. Just we were watching films constantly. And it's oh shit, Jackie Chan did this. It's oh, he fought with a jacket. He fought with a pen. He he did all sorts of crazy shit like this. And although those were sometimes more comedic, this was a very serious drama. And it almost feels like the stakes are higher in this film than a Jackie Chan film.
Yeah. Oh, weren't you gonna tell me some of the alternative castings?
Oh yeah, okay. So this is, check this out, and some of these guys you're gonna be oh, of course, they were considered. Of course, Tom Cruise was considered. Yeah, but he's not gonna leave the Mission Impossible franchise. It's just not gonna happen. And because I think MI3 was in, they were in production at that point, so it's yeah, he's not going to leave that. And I still think that's the greatest Mission Impossible film so far, but that's just me. Sure. The first one that was considered was Brad Pitt. Could you have seen Brad Pitt in this role?
Possibly.
I think
I can see why they might have want to gone with him, because what is it? He was, I think it was just before Bourne, but he did that movie with what's his face, Robert Redford.
He was in a film with Redford.
Yeah, and I really felt that was almost
I know which movie you're talking. Is it Spy Game?
Yeah, Spy Game.
Yeah, okay. So Brad Pitt was the first one that was considered. He turned it down to play in Spy Game.
Ah, okay.
So, okay. Here's the person they went to next. Russell Crowe.
Whoa, that would have been different.
That is a different film.
That's
Brad
a different
Pitt
film.
And Russell Crowe. That's a different film. It's completely different.
Yeah. I know. I'm like envisioning it with Russell Crowe. It's oh yeah, you want to fight Chinaman?
Yeah. Oh my god, we get South Park version of Russell Crowe.
Yeah, I'm gonna fight you like a Chinaman with this pen.
It's this little tugboat.
Yeah.
Oh, fuck me, man. That's all right. Here's the other two, and there's not in 2002. I cannot see this movie with these two. Arnold Schwarzenegger and Sylvester Stallone.
What?
Yeah.
No, they would have been way too old for this.
One, way too old. Arnold Schwarzenegger would be no. No. I'm sorry, not Arnold. And I love Arnold. Arnold's great.
Yeah, don't get
Not
us wrong, but no.
but Sylvester Stallone, there's no fucking way. I'm sorry,
No.
not
Yeah,
not
especially with like his speech impediment, it just wouldn't work.
not for this film.
Yeah, not for this film. Yeah, I
It
mean,
worked.
yeah, if, you got away with it with Rambo. I mean, in a way, he already played this role. It's just like kind of a lower tempo Rambo.
Yeah, yeah, it is. And like I said, don't get me wrong. I love Arnold. I love Sylvester Stallone. I like all these characters. I would have. If this had been like Brad Pitt or Tom Cruise, I would. I'd probably like the film. I think it would be good with those guys. Russell Crowe, that's like a toss up. I don't know. That could have been good. That could have been really awful. Um, but Arnold or Sylvester, no fucking way. Not in this
No,
film.
no way. Especially since like they're going away so much from the usual kind of action thriller formula.
Yeah,
They're definitely because
they're going more
they're
the
putting Bourne they're putting throughout the entire movie. Bourne is definitely on the back foot,
they're so
so it's not believable that Arnold or Stallone would be on their
here,
back foot.
here's where I think, because we went with like the Arnolds and the Sylvester Stallones, like kind of like the big super
Right, they
hefty.
were super confident and they were super, testosterone pumpy.
Yeah, then you went to the guys like like your Bruce Willis, the everyday kind of looking guy.
Yeah, the
Like
everyman.
hey, that could be me. Like in that situation.
Mm-hmm.
And then they were going to like more of like kind of like the kind of like from Bruce Willis kind of straddles the line between the super macho man and kind of like what we get with Matt Damon in the Bourne series.
Right. Yeah. Bruce Willis is the bridge between Stallone and Schwarzenegger to Matt Damon.
Yeah, and even like I think even Bruce Willis might have been too old had he been considered. I think he
Oh
would have been
yeah. Mm-hmm.
too old for the role. It's just
Yeah.
that you need a young guy, and Matt
Yeah.
Damon was, to me, Tom Cruise could have done it. I think Brad Pitt would have been okay. I mean, now he's kind of done some action films, like Bullet Train just came out, like
Yeah, that was fun.
I've heard it. I've heard good things.
Yeah,
I've heard
I watched it. Not in theaters, but I watched it, and it's fun.
I've heard it's fine and fun.
Yeah,
It's
fine
like
and fun.
uh, but yeah, those other guys, no way. Russell Crowe maybe could have been good,
Really
but
quickly for Bullet Train, I think who really steals I mean, it's Brad Pitt's movie, but who really steals the show is Aaron Taylor Johnson.
I heard he was good in this. Yeah, I thought he
Yeah,
was good.
I would agree.
But yeah, I thought the alternate casting. I looked at, I was like, oh my god, like this is it.
Yeah, but I would agree. Russell Crowe would have made it a completely different movie.
Oh, completely different.
Mm-hmm.
And I am a Russell Crowe fan. I think he is a great actor. I think he kind of who actually would have been interesting in this is Gerard Butler.
Ooh.
Now he wasn't considered, obviously, but I think Gerard Butler would have been interesting at that because he's about the same age. Could have been interesting.
Mm.
And he does action films, so this would have been kind of interesting for him.
Right.
Because this is
well, he wasn't. Gerard Butler wasn't known for action. Like prior to doing 300, he did The Phantom of the Opera.
Did he?
Yeah, with what's her face, Emmy Rossum.
Whoa, no, really?
Yeah, and he sings. I guess you couldn't call it singing. Yeah,
so,
he plays the Phantom. He plays the Phantom.
I did not know that there was another. So this is more based off like the '80s version of Phantom of the Opera from like.
Yeah, more. It's based off the
Andrew Lloyd Webber.
Yeah, Andrew Lloyd Webber musical. Yeah.
Because I know, well, because I think they had a film version of that in the '80s that I remember watching. I think. and I didn't know they did a remake of that one.
Yeah.
With Gerard Butler and Emmy Rossum.
Yeah.
This
of course I didn't watch it for Gerard Butler. I had a huge crush on Emmy Rossum. Because she's a trained singer too, and she has a really beautiful voice.
Emmy Rossum is a trained singer.
Yeah.
Get out of here.
Okay, go and look up Emmy Rossum, Conan O'Brien.
Okay, I gotta check this out. I did not. More reasons to be infatuated with Emmy Rossum. Because the two things I know are from Mystic River and Shameless.
Yeah, yeah. Me too. Or not Mystic River, but I was aware of Emmy Rossum.
Yeah. Oh man.
And I did have a crush. I did have a crush on her.
She's smoking hot.
Yeah, but it's like she has like that cute hot thing going.
Yeah.
Like she's not like super. She's not super hot. But like it's like a perfect blend of like cute and hot.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I wouldn't say she was like super smoking hot, but
there's something about her.
There's something about her. Yeah.
I am attracted to her. I think she looks fantastic.
Mm-hmm.
And if you watch Shameless, you could see her boobs. So it's
I was really excited about that.
I'm sure you were.
But yeah.
I had to say.
Anyways. Yeah. So I first was aware of drug, but a little bit. I saw 300, and then I saw Phantom of the Opera, which actually came up before 300, and so I was like a little taken aback that because he was playing the Phantom.
Yeah, I gotta check that out. I didn't know that they did another remake of the Andrew Lloyd Webber 80s version, the musical. Yep. Mm-hmm. Now, like I said, we have reviewed the very original one from the silent version with Lon Chaney. Mm-hmm. We have not done the Universal remake that was done in the 40s with Claude Rains as the Phantom, which I now own, which is actually in color. It's in Technicolor. Mm-hmm. So I haven't finished watching that. I kind of popped that on for like 5 minutes before, and then I wasn't able to finish it. So I'll have to finish that. But yeah.
Oh, you know what? Thinking about that, I would really like to work in a League of Extraordinary Gentlemen.
You know what? I think that's a good theme month if we wanted to do kind of like we can do the versions of like the Universal monsters. We can do like League of Extraordinary Gentlemen. Isn't there like Monster Squad? Isn't that like another one from? Isn't there a movie called Monster Squad?
I'm not 100%. But yeah, the League of Extraordinary Gentlemen, they take like literary figures like Captain Nemo, and like Wilhelmina Harker from obviously Bram Stoker's Dracula, the Invisible Man, Dr. Jekyll, Mr. Hyde, Alan Quatermain, Tom Sawyer.
Yes, so I was correct. So the Monster Squad's from 1987. And it's 5 youngsters finds themselves up against the combined might of Dracula, the Mummy, the Gillman, and Frankenstein's monster, who arrive in town in search of a magic amulet. Sounds awesome to me.
Sounds like schlock, but.
It very well could be, but it sounds awesome.
Let's try to work that in because.
I think anytime I can work like those classic monsters into anything, even if it's like a different iteration of them, mm-hmm. And it also gives us a chance to maybe throw in some of the Hammer horror stuff too.
Okay.
Because that's the way that they present those characters is very different from the Universal stuff. Mm-hmm. So I think that'd be fun. Okay. We'll figure it out.
Anything else for Bourne?
About the Bourne? Oh yeah, what are we talking about? The Bourne Identity. Yeah, that's right.
Yeah, we're talking about the Bourne Identity.
No, I just had to say that the film is so good. Like I said, and to be honest, it's a great trilogy. It's a great franchise. I'm probably one of the few that really love the Bourne Legacy. I think that which kind of takes place at the same time as the Bourne Ultimatum is going on.
Right.
And I like Jason Bourne, like the fifth movie in the franchise.
Oh, that's the one I haven't seen yet.
Oh, dude, it's even that one's good. And to be honest, it looked like there was gonna. I don't think it did well in theaters, and that's kind of like why we haven't gotten another sequel of that, or either that, or Matt Damon just got bored with it, or didn't want to do it anymore. And which is kind of a shame, and unfortunately, because the Bourne Legacy didn't do very well, you know, Jeremy Renner was being set up to kind of take over that franchise,
right?
And for whatever reason, the people didn't like it. It's like, are you people insane? This is a good movie. It's because it's probably like, we don't want change. We want Matt Damon. Why isn't Matt Damon in the movie? That's probably what happened. And unfortunately, Jeremy Renner is injured and probably won't be able to do any films like this anymore.
Yeah.
Which is a damn shame. Though he kind of got roped into a bunch of action stuff, but the guy is a good drama actor too. Like, it's just.
Yeah, I wonder how they're gonna move forward for his show. Mayor of Kingstown.
Have you watched that? It's really good.
I haven't yet.
Dude, it is intense. Yeah, because the second season just dropped, and I haven't watched that. But first season, I was like, this is, ooh, man, it is really tense. And it's not really an action film either. Like he's just a guy, but like it's
more of a drama. Yeah.
Yeah, it's a drama. It's like this guy, like, the guy needs to be in more dramas, and that's probably what he's going to do from now on, because he can't really do. I doubt he's going to be able to do any sort of action stuff anymore. I mean, it looks like they didn't have to cut off his leg, thank God. But
he's impaired now.
Yeah, but he said, like, he actually credited a lot of, like, not only his family, but like he said, like, honestly, like, the fans kept me going, because he'd been like kind of doing videos of his like progress and stuff like that. He was doing a YouTube short series or whatever, like kind of about his recovery, and it's like, man, the fans kept me going because I was down in the dumps. And it's like that and that's kind of great to hear that. It's like it's like, man, I'm so thankful that I have all these fans that like want are praying for me and thinking about me, and I got a great family that's by my side, and it's like, I'm so thankful. It's so great, and that just makes, honestly, it just makes me like the guy more and more. He didn't give up. It would have been so easy to just give up and just like kind of fall in. It's like, no, I'm not gonna give up. I'm gonna keep going and fight.
I mean, I'll love him for his body of work, but I'll forever love him because of a joint interview he had with Brie Larson, and like,
yes,
and like he fucking hammered her. Like, she's talking about, oh yeah, like, this, like, the role, like, definitely making me a better person, blah blah blah. And he just comes in and is like, so actually, I think you should be a good person first, and then bring those attributes to the character.
You could cut the hatred that he had for her with a freaking knife.
I know. It was so palpable.
Oh man, I was like, oh.
Yeah. For me, one last thing about Bourne. At the end, when Brian Cox's character, Abbott, he's kind of cleaning up the mess, and it's crazy how they, like, he had to go to that like subcommittee or whatever, and and they asked them about like the program Treadstone, the program that created Jason Bourne and all the other super soldiers.
Yeah.
How quickly he was just able to like skirt under the rug. It's like, actually, this is mostly theoretical, and we already shut it down, and so there's no reason to talk about it. And just kind of like say, okay, great, next item, and then
Blackbriar, which is what it turns into the second film, and it's the same fucking thing.
Yeah, and I mean, like, Blackbriar was the pilot program to Treadstone.
Yeah, he just kind of like,
and the Blackbriar was what created Jason Bourne in the first place.
It's a shell game. That's what he's playing. That's what his character's playing. It's a shell game. It's like, we're gonna keep doing the same thing. It's like, because he likes, because they have I don't know, quote unquote accomplished so much. So it's like they're just playing. It's just a shell game, to keep the program going. Oh, we're just gonna change up the name, but we're gonna do the same thing. It's and that's where like that leads you into the second film, because it becomes about obviously they're trying to find out about Treadstone, and then which leads into the idea of Blackbriar, and like what's in it, which kind of leads into the third film, and him discovering who he actually is and all that stuff, and just really, I think this is a very well constructed. The trilogy for sure is very well constructed. I don't think that there is a piece of fluff in the trilogy at all. And Damon and Doug Liman, they really fought hard to do what they wanted to do for this film. I mean, they fought the production company. Like, I mean, they really fought them the entire fucking way. Because the studio's like, why are we filming here? Why are we doing this? Why is the character saying this? It's like, I mean, from like the day one, and not just the director, but Matt Damon fought. It's like, no, we are keeping this in. This is why. And like because both him and Damon like the character, they like the screenplay. Damon bought in right away once he got involved with the project. It's like, yeah, we're like, I like this character. I think we should be doing this and that. And him and the director seemed like they got along really well, and they were a united front against the production company. And some of the changes that the producers wanted to do would have ruined the movie. And it's like, because Damon and Lehman stood up against them, that's how we got the movie that we got. And it became
the world is richer for it.
It became a runaway hit. I mean, they made hand over fist the money that they made with this movie. And that's why we got the trilogy, and that's why we got the Bourne franchise, is because those two fighting for what they wanted.
All right. Well, yeah, that's the last bit that I had. That's it. Then let's give our rating and we'll wrap
it up. I'll go first. Man, I maybe this is like rose-tinted glasses, maybe it's nostalgia, whatever you want to call it, but I love this movie so much. I can't think of anything but 5 stars for me on this one. I think it changed the action genre, it changed the spy thriller genre in a lot of ways. I think this really cemented Matt Damon as a megastar. And for the time, the cinematography was revolutionary. It was really cool. And every time that when the Bourne franchise was utilizing that cinematography, it was done well. The Pretenders afterwards, I was like, stop it. Stop using these camera techniques. They're terrible.
Right,
it's like, you're doing it wrong.
Yeah, and they didn't sit on their laurels either, because they always like, I mean, kind of in the same way that the John Wick movies, that they constantly elevated like their fight scenes.
That's a good comparison. I was you bringing that up, because I think John Wick also is transforming the action genre in a way.
Yeah, absolutely. But I remember in Bourne Ultimatum there was like that following shot of that one agent like crashing through the window. No one's ever seen that before, and so Bourne had like a certain aesthetic, but they didn't rest on their laurels, and they innovated upon innovation.
Yeah. So like I said, for what this franchise did for the action genre, like Matt Damon, I mean, I can't think of anyone else to play this character. We talked about the alternate thoughts for actors,
Mm-hmm.
nah, it's Matt Damon's role. I mean, this is made for him.
Mm-hmm.
And I like I said, I can't give it anything but a 5-star rating.
Yeah. Well, I'm not gonna come at it a 5, but I will give it a solid 4. Um, yeah, I think Marie's character was kind of weak. I think Conklin could have been more fleshed out.
Supposedly he was based off of Oliver North.
Mm,
The
okay.
I guess
Yeah.
the director or the writer had some sort of interaction with Ollie North, and like he's like, yeah, I based Conklin off of him.
Yeah, but I wish like there was a little bit, because I feel Conklin's character was reacting too much. Especially if we're led to understand that him and Bourne had, went back further ways. Like their relationship was a little deeper. And so I think a little bit more backstory on Conklin, I think they should have had him do more.
Yeah, I think you're right on that. Like Conklin maybe could have been. We could have had like an extra maybe like 15, 20 minutes, learning more about like Conklin and stuff like that, and kind of like at least more of his motivation.
Yeah, because he was reacting too much and not being proactive, or like
and we don't
looking
see
over.
like why, we don't understand why he's kind of dialing it up to 11.
Right, and like why he's like freaking out. And
I mean, I guess we kind of figured out it's like because he is doing he is trying to commit an assassination on this semi-dictator that the
this deposed leader, this deposed dictator who's living out in exile.
That is like I think is being protected by the United States. Maybe I think it's not really clear
well,
as like
maybe he got hosed in a deal which got him deposed, and so like he was coming out and saying like, oh, I'm gonna name names, and so
yeah, like that part is not quite fleshed out as much. And I like I said, I think an extra like 15 to 20 minutes wouldn't have been too much. So we can kind of been given a little bit more as to why Conklin is the way he is, and why they went after Wombosi.
Right. Although, this was my first introduction to this actor, whose name I'm not going to even attempt to try to pronounce, but I'm going to call him Mr. Echo because that's what his character was in Lost.
Oh, that's it. That's him.
Yeah, that's him.
That's Mr. Echo.
Yeah, that's Mr. Echo.
Oh shit! I didn't recognize him.
Yeah, but that was my first exposure to that character.
And man,
like there's just and then also he goes on to play what is it? One of the cultists in the Mummy Returns movie.
Oh shit!
Yeah, like the big muscular black guy.
Yes.
Yeah.
Oh man, that's I did not recognize him in those roles. It's like I was like he's a great actor. He's a good character actor. I like him.
Mm-hmm. I do too.
I cannot believe that was Mr. Echo. How did I miss that?
But and I wish there was a little bit more on Mr. Echo's character. Like maybe like maybe like there could have been a phone call between Conklin and Wombosi.
Right.
And like and then Bourne could have been in the room and been like, and that could have been like, okay, you have a mission.
Yes, something just maybe a little like
just like a connecting line,
Yeah.
So for those reasons, I give it a 4.
Okay, yeah, I think that's fair. Like I said, it maybe it's a little bit of nostalgia for me. That's why I'm giving it like the extra star. But I think your criticism is valid. Yeah, because I totally see that.
Mm-hmm.
And like you and most of America, no one liked Marie. I'm one of the few that's like I understand her character. I don't know why. I don't hate her. I think
I
she's
mean, I
perfectly
wouldn't
fine.
say that I wouldn't say that I hate her, but I just her character was very weak.
My wife was so happy when she died in the sea. It's like
Whoops!
fucking
Spoiler
thank God.
alerts.
It's like
Yeah, I mean, yeah, she seemed a little weak, uh, in terms of like her characterization and like just like her motivations. I mean, even though I gave like very plausible, reasonings for her actions, but it was still pretty weak.
yeah, but like I said, this movie's great. I think everyone should watch it. If you've never seen it, God, you have got to watch it. I think the first two Bourne movies are on HBO right now. You can stream them for free if you have HBO.
Mm-hmm.
Um, and then Bourne Ultimatum is on Amazon, available for rent. Why those three aren't together in like a package, I have no fucking clue.
You never know. All right, folks, there you have it. That's our review for The Bourne Identity. Robert gives it a 5. I gave it a 4. Uh, still would recommend this movie. Arguably the movie that changed, the action spy thriller.
Yep.
Um, yeah, still a good movie. Yeah. So
20 years later, it's still great.
yes, yeah, 20 years later, and it still holds up. Not a lot of things can be said the same.
What are we reviewing next week, Andy?
That's true.
We have Memoir of a Murderer, and what's the other movie that The Father. Which one would you like to review next week?
Oh, okay. I haven't seen either before, but I know you talk very highly of them, of both.
Do you want to go international and do the Korean one, or do you want to do? Well, I guess both are international because the other one's an English production, but like it's from England.
Okay. Yeah. Let's do Father.
You want to do The Father with Anthony Hopkins?
I'd like to get some Anthony Hopkins in my. Dude, he's such a fun follow on Instagram.
It's my wife because I got her interested. She became a huge Anthony Hopkins fan. Because we watched The Father. She liked that. And then I showed her a bunch of like other films of like his. We watched the one that he did with the spy movie that he did with Chris Rock. I forget what the hell the title of that is at the moment, but
something company.
Bad Company.
Bad Company.
Yeah. Great film, by the way. That's a good movie.
Mm-hmm.
And then I obviously showed her his most famous performance in Silence of the Lambs. It's like she's like she was fascinated. It's like all these characters are completely different. It's like, yep. and I was like, you gotta look at his Instagram. Like he is so much fun. That's a person I want to hang out with. He's so much.
Yes, I want to have a beer with Anthony Hopkins.
I do. He looks so like fun and nice. And actually, a movie that I want to watch of his is the Elephant Man.
Mm-hmm.
I've never seen it.
Yeah,
but
him and John Hurt.
Yeah, that's right. I kind of want to check that movie out. But yeah, the Father. Oh man, that movie's gonna break my freaking heart again. It's not a horror film, but it is horrific. It terrifies me. Because we are gonna literally descend into the mind of someone who has dementia.
So we're watching a movie about Joe Biden.
Okay. Yeah.
You set me up for that one.
I did, but like no, this is as close as we're gonna get to having dementia / Alzheimer's, and it's scary.
All right, folks. Here you have it. Something to look forward to. So next week we'll be reviewing Father. Is it The Father or
It's
Father?
called The Father.
Okay, The Father, starring Anthony Hopkins.
From 2020, I believe. I think it's 3
Yeah,
years
that
old.
sounds right. Yeah.
He
Oh
won
yeah,
the
because
he won
yeah,
the
because
Academy
he
Award.
won because Anthony Hopkins won Best Actor in 2021 for that movie, but he was at home in
He was asleep.
yeah in what's the country?
And people were pissed that he beat out was it Chadwick Boseman? Or yeah, it was he beat out Chadwick Boseman for the award. And it's like, how dare we give it to Anthony Hopkins? Like, he's asleep in bed.
I
And
know.
he woke up in the morning and like
Right,
it
and
was
then
like,
like yeah, his phone was probably like blown up or whatever, but he didn't care. It's like, oh, thank you guys.
yeah, but his video response to it is like, man, thank you guys. Like that means
Yeah,
a
he's
lot. And
so
it's like,
humble, so
and he even talked about like Chadwick Boseman in his response.
acceptance. Yeah,
It's like I wasn't trying to take anything away from this great actor. It's like, but you guys chose me, and I'm very thankful. And cheers to you,
yeah.
chap. It's like,
God. Welsh. No, that's someone. That's what's the country? And it's not England. It's
Wales.
technically its own country. Wales. There you go. Wales.
Yeah,
Yeah, because Anthony Hopkins is not technically English. He's Welsh.
yeah, he's from Wales.
Yeah. So is Catherine Zeta-Jones.
That's where she's from. Oh wow, I
Yeah,
didn't know
I
she
know.
was from
I
Wales.
know. I know. Like because she was in Zorro and stuff. She has a very Latin flavor, but yeah, she's Welsh.
They have a dragon as their flag.
Yeah, they have a dragon on their flag.
I'm down for that.
Yeah, and technically the monarchs they're all from Wales too.
Yep.
Yeah, they're not technically English.
Oh.
All right, that'll do it for us tonight. I hope you had a good time. I had a good time. I know Rob always has a good time.
Dude, Tuesday is my favorite day of the week.
Come rain or shine.
Yeah, I've been doing a lot of talking this week, so yeah, it's been a lot of fun.
I know you think you'd be sick of it, but all right. Yeah, don't forget to check out the library of other content that we have. The Circle of Jerks main podcast, episodes of Nocturnal Transmissions, of course, and Rob's gaming show, Up by Up Down.
We did not talk about our Whiplash review just dropped. About
a couple weeks ago. Yeah.
So go check out that with James, our friends. We talk about the movie Whiplash. Go check that out. We also have an upcoming episode about 1979's Alien with a friend of the show, David. So that should be coming up in the next couple of weeks. And we got some more great stuff coming out. Like we're gonna have some really cool guests coming up this year. So keep on the lookout.
Indeed. Don't forget to check out. Don't forget to follow us on our various social media accounts: Twitter and Letterboxd @PodcastCOJ and Instagram @CircleJerksPodcast. With all that said, we thank you for joining us tonight. Come back next week, and we'll do it all over again. Have a good one.